Hawk? Where's our host?
I do not know. Grapes, we were supposed to have 3 people here.
It's
This is the introduction to the show. We
it's
were supposed to get rid of
101.
Hawk for a while.
We are really, we're kind of running behind here, guys. We gotta pick up the schedule a little bit. Man, I just
We're
really
already
hope
late.
that
Yeah.
we're just really, I don't know, if this is gonna work out.
Sorry,
Oh, there he
guys.
is.
Sorry, I was getting McDouble. Sorry, am I late? Are we on?
Oh,
we
You know what?
no.
It works. It's fine. It's fine. We'll start the game. We'll start without you. It's fine.
like native against CB is happening right
Yeah.
now.
Not Team Ambition versus
sorry.
Winthrop.
That's on me, guys.
fine.
Didn't mean to delay. Welcome everybody though to the Salty Run Back stream. My name is a Hawk, one half of the Salty Run Back duo. I got my other half right next to me. It's Graves, rude dude on the other end as well. Yo,
Just a third wheel out here, don't worry.
But we
I had to third wheel yesterday. It's fine.
Hmm.
We got a great matchup today. It's gonna be Native Gaming up against CB in the second day of the first round of the group stage.
Very excited. It's going to be a good game. We had a lot of really great matchups yesterday, both on Salty Runback and on Smax's stream. Both A and B groups have, rounded out their first round. And we're going to finish off this first stage today, both on both of those streams again.
Yeah, and this is a matchup that we did see in the open qualifier as well. For anyone that might have missed it, Rude, you might have been. You said you saw that match, so we can come to you in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to take it from you now, Hawk, actually.
Oh, go for it. Yeah. Tell the people.
We're in a very fortunate position where frequently with these OQ teams, since they're all newly formulated, it's so difficult to A, get tape on the teams, and then B, get tape on how they would go against one another. But myself and Grapes, we're in the fortunate position that we've not just seen these two teams play, but we've also seen these two teams play one another, and we can obviously infer very quickly how this game is going to go, and we actually don't need to do this stream, and we should just be able to bish bash bosh get on to series number 2.
We just got a raid from CB. We're gonna do them dirty as soon as they hop into the chat. That's kind of messed up.
No, that's so mean. Oh no, but okay. So what I'm hearing is we've got all the analysis messages. It's just gonna slam Vex again, and that's it. That's all we need to see.
I would be happy for a messages Vex spam. Sorry, I said Rex because they played all of the OQ games on live server where messages IGN is Mesa Riz. So that was just in my head. So
Great name.
Vex with the Mesa Riz, hopefully.
Fair enough. Well, messages, definitely had a pop-off game in that first time these teams met. CB, of course, this was the 3-0 match. They were sort of the upstarts that started 3-0. Unfortunately, finished the open qualifier 3-2. However, I say that like it's a bad thing. They got into the group stage. They are here now in the group stage, ready to play. So very, very good for them. They were, of course, one of the 3 teams seated outside of the top 16 that made it in. But messages up against Nem9 in the mid lane is probably one of the matchups that we have sort of our eyes on. Before I get into like my next segment, do we have anything else to say about these two players, Grapes?
Well, I think that it probably will be relatively interesting. I know that Nem9's champion pool is something that will probably play a big factor in the way that the draft goes. And also just like if we want to take a look at the rest of the schedules and the rest of the groups and how those are going as well, I feel like that would be a really interesting way to set the tone for the day. I mean, Rude, what are you looking at here that is, other than this series, because you seem to have a very strong opinion about this one?
Yeah, I'm actually excited for the series that follows us as well, Ambition versus Winthrop, not just for the players that are there, but also for the sort of teams involved. The two organizations, or the college and the organization, have had a lot of history in amateur, just as it is. Winthrop, obviously, the fairly unexpected CLOL champs back in 2021, and then Team Ambition have been a organization permanently on the rise through the NA amateur space. They were really looking for any way to get into CQs or into PGCQ as it was last split, but didn't quite make it through the open qualifiers. Now they've managed it. They've got this new roster of combined 3 rosters forces that have all culminated in what should be actually a fairly intense series after the one that we've got on.
Yeah, definitely. And that one, of course, will be on this stream immediately following this one. And also want to shout out the other stream as well. Twitch.tv, Smackside, all the Group D action will be over there. You got Horizon Gaming up against the Illinois State Redbirds. So don't miss it. Watch both of our streams at the same time. I don't know, set up a multi. It's going to be a great day of League of Legends on both of our streams. And afterwards, you know what? Then we can go all watch NACL. And we've got a full Sunday of League. But
I have so many VODs to catch up on.
oh my gosh, dude. Having 36 NACL games plus the games that are happening here. Also, Rude and I are on CBLOL. It's a lot of League.
It's a busy day. It's a busy day.
Yeah. But we right now we've got this matchup to talk about. We've got Native Gaming up against CB Gaming. We've teased the matchup a little bit. We've teased the mid matchup, but Grapes and Rude, I hope you don't mind. I would love to just tell everyone a story. You guys like stories?
Do I have? Can I sit down? Do I have can I get like a glass of warm milk? Is that all right?
Yeah. If if only we had like a campfire, s'mores. I don't know, but like nice ukulele music. That's like the vibes we're going for. Yeah, grab your hot drink. So once upon a time, there was a jungler that came into the amateur scene and immediately began to impress people. Within 2 years, was in academy and played against some of the best that North America had to offer. This was all about, 7 years ago now, I think it was. And
wow, that's like ancient times.
It is. It truly is. There we go. That's the campfire.
Whoa, ow. Jesus.
It's great. Gravestone, don't fall into the fire. But unfortunately, their academy days were numbered, and they came back to amateur in 2021 to become the team known as Barrage, and then Resolve. But they beat a couple of those academy teams, proving that perhaps the general managers might have made a mistake. However, in the following year, they were passed over once again on their long journey through the NA ecosystem, and they found themselves once again playing in amateur. But fear not, they won 2 titles on their way through amateur over the course of the year and proved themselves as one of the best junglers in the ecosystem. Unfortunately, now in 2023, this player still has not found their way back to their hometown, back to their home of academy. But of course, there's another player too. There's another player I must tell a tale about.
Wow. Is the story just as long?
No. Quite the contrary. This player, quite literally 1 week ago, just left home. And that's the story. Do we know who these 2 players are?
No,
you definitely didn't show us the graphic earlier and ask us to check it out.
It's Fnatic and Kisno, the junglers for Native and CB. Fnatic, very, very storied as a player. Kisno, much less storied. However, Kisno having quite the showing in the open qualifier with some pop-off games on some carry junglers, Rude.
I'm really excited for Kisno, actually, right? This is, like you can see, their first competitive outing, but the games that they were winning, the first sort of 3-0 games, and you have to remember the way that Swiss format works is they were playing really difficult teams throughout the entire event. Kisno was always on fire, was always looking for the proactive plays. I'm actually, obviously Fnatic is as storied as they come in the amateur space, and the sort of CV that we've got kind of proves it. But I think that Kisno is a player that could end up with this length of tenure if they can, find the enjoyment for the space and really do enjoy what they do, continue to find that progression. I think that there's certainly a world where Kisno becomes a name that we become more familiar with in the amateur scene.
The 3 teams, that Native beat in the open qualifier to get in were ISU, Tony Top, and Team Fish Taco. And the teams that they lost to were Horizon and Native. So they have only played against teams that are currently in the group stage right now and have a winning record against them. So, this is a team with, some names that maybe people weren't expecting to be at this stage, but definitely all very deserving. And Kisna specifically, as you were saying, Hawk, had a really good couple of matchups there in the open qualifiers. And something that the scoreboard might not be able to tell the story of is that he has Kindred banned against him 4 times out of the 5 games, which means that, there's a pocket pick that could definitely be whipped out. And if not, if that's still banned away, well, the other two champions, Wukong and Viego, still very prevalent in the meta, and he had a lot of success on them as well.
Yeah, and the reason why I sort of want to highlight these two players, I love how you bring up that Kindred ban, Kisno clearly being a carry threat that teams are respecting, but it truly is every other player on native, or excuse me, CB has at least some competitive experience at this sort of level. Kisno is the only one that does not. Meanwhile, Fnatic Grapes, you have said it yourself. You think he is the best player in this entire tournament, and so I mean, it's just clearly like this is a discrepancy in terms of not just experience, but also pedigree. And to see Kisno potentially be able to have a strong showing would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I took him B1 in our draft, and that just kind of speaks
Yeah.
for itself. And everyone kind of been saying I kind of won out on that amateur player
I know
draft.
I
So,
got memed on. I got memed on for not taking
should have
fan,
banned it
but
away. Should have banned it away.
I should have. I was too focused on ADCs. But anyway, I am getting word that draft is ready to go. So I hope everyone enjoyed that nice campfire tale. Grapes and Rude, we'll send you in.
Yeah, I'm a little tired after that one. I might have to take a
Mm.
bit of a nap between the games. I heard that you were saying that it's going to be a quick one, so maybe that's what we're looking at here. But we are into the draft for Native versus CB Gaming. I mean, we talked about the mid lane matchup, Rude. We talked about the jungle matchup. What other things are we looking at, especially in this current meta on patch 13.1b?
Okay, so we're going to head toward the top lane next. Phenom versus Shocky. Because there have been a couple champions, Jax, Cassante, that have been kind of ruling the top lane roost a little bit. But there's equally a lot of diversity into things like Camille and Fiora, which feel a bit more up Shocky's route. And then there's also the more generic bruises that you kind of associate that you can counter with. Things like the Olaf, which Phenom actually played versus Native last time. Things also a little bit different, like the Ornn, like the Scion, which are kind of resurging a little bit if you're looking for a tank. There are plenty of options for the top lane matchup, and I'm expecting with Native here on this blue side to have to go for something a little bit more safe, generic standard for Shocky in that top side, because I'm expecting R5 to be in that top lane unless they've got a strict, rigid plan for a draft.
Yeah, the interesting thing, of course, is you mentioned tanks in the top lane pool, but both these players don't like playing tanks very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
Shocky was kind of picked up by Native because of the raw mechanical skill that he had on things like the Aurelia and the Fiora and the Camille. Or on the other side, Phenom X whipped out a Darius game in their win against Tony Top. So that's like kind of the champion pool that we're looking at up in the top side. And we already see it being focused a little bit here in the ban phase. Fiora taken off of the board, but also the junglers getting heavily focused as well. There's that Kindred ban we were talking about earlier.
And Elise off the table as well, so denying some of that early game snowball coming through. We touched on this before as well, Grapes, when we got on air. This Seraphine ban specifically targeted at Last Dance, the AD carrier, the bot laner for CB, plays that very frequently when paired with a Senna. So this is like a dual ban akin to something like a Nami ban. You're expecting that to take out both the Nami and the Lucian. Speaking about that bot lane, there have been very few actual meta bans focused towards it. Things like the Ashe still very much available. Heimerdinger, I know it got nerfed, but is still open for the taking. Native have got a couple of options, and bot lane priority has really ruled the draft in terms of what people are after. So we'll have to see if Natives are going to continue down that trend.
Yeah, the interesting thing about these two teams is that the bot lanes don't always opt for the same Lucian Nami, Zeri Yumi, Caitlyn Lux kind of combos. These are two of the teams that we have here in the NACLQs that have been willing to whip out other stuff. Native specifically has played the Kai'Sa Nautilus bot lane a couple of times just to really hard force kills with Scooped and Rhino down there. And on the other side, Last Dance and Sandwich have whipped out things like the Senna Seraphine, which you were talking about earlier, and also things like just like the Blitzcrank in to try and counter some of these really hyper range double marksman compositions that teams have been setting up in the bot lane. So it might be a little bit of a deviation for the meta, which I'm personally happy with because I've seen a ton and so many of these Zeri Lulu trades. We're gonna see something different here as the bot laners get locked in.
Yeah, and it is that Kai'Sa Nautilus, as you mentioned, Grapes, right? They've played this one a few times, get scooped to 3 items, tends to be Natives' backup win condition if they've not already snowballed the game far too far beyond reproach. CB, though, they answer with a very strong traditional bot lane in the current meta. Varus and the Karma. Now, there's a world where this Karma gets flexed into a solo lane, but anticipate that it does get matched with the bot lane. And here, provides a lot of pressure in the early stages. Looking at that bot side of the map to see how fast they can get the push, how fast they can assert some pressure. Because level 1, we're expecting Rhino to be very squishy and honestly under a lot of pressure. If this is that lethality virus as well, you can expect either Halo Blades or Comet, which just adds to the power of the virus in the laning phase, which is when Kai'Sa is obviously at her weakest. So there's a lot here for CB to be able to play towards in the early stages if they're looking to find a lead.
We also see an Udyr picked up here, which I want to briefly touch on before we get into the second phase of the bans with the solo laners being locked in. Are we sure that this is a Udyr in the jungle? I'm looking at Kisno's champion pool, have not had a not had an Udyr banned or picked in his draft, but also could be something that could be flexed into a solo lane as well.
Yeah, you're right. AP sort of tank bruiser, AP Udyr made with a demonic into tank items has certainly shot up in win rate, not necessarily prevalence, but has become a lot more powerful. I was then by extension going to say, well, this is where you'd expect to see them take top lane, which I actually think feeds into Native's narrative a little bit that Shocky, this carry top laner, can pick a counter pick. If this is an Udyr that's going to opt into the mid lane, which is the more likely of the two solo lanes, you want to save that mid pick for last, save that flexibility. Looks like that's the option they're going for. And now we have to see, are natives going to recognize this? Have they done the research and know, okay, we need to pick a mid laner that's both safe blind and safe versus an Udyr that goes into the mid lane?
Nem9, of course, is known for whipping out things like the Yasuo and the Yone. Udyr would, be another melee option potentially. So maybe that is something that we see. It is messages locking in the Azir with Shocky picking up the Cassante. Now, I know that Jax is typically an answer into Cassante, and it seems like Phenom X wanted to opt onto that end of the trade, knowing that Native didn't really have an answer to that, I guess.
I've seen this matchup in enough regions, enough times to know I have no idea how this matchup goes. I'm pretty sure it's a skill difference. I saw Fudge week 1 of LCS Body Tenacity with it. I've seen for the Xante side, I've seen Jax's come out on top several times as well. There's all too much for me. Okay, hold the phone.
Whoa!
It's fine. This is that Karma Flex to the solo lane that we were talking about being possible. Taric is actually very good as a support versus melee supports as well, because the power of Taric comes from his healing, actually. Yes, he's got a stun, but the fact that you can just chain heal if there's a melee support, things like the Nautilus, and a lot of short-range carries, so things like Kai'Sa, the Cassante as well, actually going to be feeding into the Taric healing. This is something a little bit different, but something I'm a big fan of here. What this means for CB is this needs to be an on-hit Varus. They have got no damage if this is a poke Varus, because they're going to be poking and then doing nothing for the next 4 seconds, poking again, and then 4 seconds downtime.
Now hear me out, Rude.
Mhm.
Taric jungle.
No,
With
I will not hear you
a
out.
Karma
I'm sorry. I said
support,
I
Udyr
would,
mid.
but I was lying.
You know? It clears really fast. Dueling power, maybe not against Viego, but
Yeah, dueling power, yes. Very.
here in the pre-show. We're on to the Rift for game number 1, Native Gaming versus CB. This is the 1 seed versus the 4 seed here in Group C. So the theory is that it would be Native coming out on top, but never really know here when it comes to the NACLQs. How about it, Rude?
No, I know. My favorite thing with Season 13 is the automatic jungle difference that I can see between junglers. Now, in Season 13, you don't get prompted to buy a potion. You only get prompted to buy the starting jungle item. So junglers everywhere for the first 2 days were just buying jungle items and then leaving without a potion. Kisno has been gapped. There is no health potion within the inventory now. Either Kisno is gapping, or he's actually is gapping Fnatic by not needing the potion, knows that he needs that extra 50 gold for after a full clear into a bot crab angle. He has the exact right amount to go back to base and pick up a specific item. I will give him the benefit of the doubt, but I need to wait and see. This full clear for me, I'm not going to bring it up, but I may inform you a little bit later on that this is distinctly important to me.
It's 50 gold. It could, there's always a point when you're back in base. You're like, man, I wish I just had 50 extra gold for an item. And maybe Kisno is just so confident that he's not going to get invaded, not going to drop below a certain amount of HP, that he just really wants the extra money here in this situation. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him a little bit too much credit here, but it is just both the junglers starting at the top side of the map. I think full clears have been more and less common, I think, as the meta has kind of evolved with like recent, like, you know, three camps into bot or something like that. But I
Mhm.
think that this might be just kind of a full clearing over both of these players.
And I'm glad that you bring up bot lane because both of our junglers obviously are pathing towards it. When you've got double melee support, it means that engages are very easy. You can already see Native stepping forward. They've got level 2.
Yeah, that's the Kai'Sa Nautilus power. You just win out on these level 1s. Rhino with a huge Dredge line taking last dance. There's a significant level of HP.
Yeah, and they didn't quite hit 2 before they went in, but they knew that they had this window where CB were going to have to back away. Native, though, get that early trade down, early ward as well from Scoop, so they're going to be able to spot out Kisno if they make an effort down to the bot lane within the next 90 seconds or so. Because the wave is now in a pretty delicate position. They didn't quite get the crash off of the turret, so they're going to have to either force Fnatic to come down here and hover them while they crash this, or just really hard force it and risk the fact that Kisno could try and make a play on them. Looks like they're going to be able to force this crash, though. They've got that dematerializer on the cannon, so they're able to fast push the wave in. And now that wave has reset, it'll start to bounce back towards them and put them in a beneficial position for when Fnatic finishes up his clear.
See Rhino on an early movement up into the blue buff of CB. Trying to spot out Kisno, just make sure that they know where the jungler is. It looks like he will be spotted out. Blue buff will be taken pretty much uncontested, but because of that, Fnatic instead elects to go up to the top side of the map and try to get the crab up there for just a little bit of trade.
Yeah, because he knows when those waves crash that he wouldn't have priority in that bot side, but I don't think that's particularly been read just yet. Looks like with the spot out from N8V, it allows Kisno to head back down toward that bot side scuttle. And a worthy reminder that Fnatic actually skipped out on the Krugs, so isn't actually full clear here. Is Rhino.
He's going to lock him down with the roots first to make sure the dredge line connects. N8V still has a flash, probably will just be okay, but just going to walk on out of there without burning that stun.
Early game Nautilus and Azir damage not particularly prevalent, so a nice recognition from N8V there. Had Mantra as well, so would have been able to enhance the W, steal away a bit more HP, had Rhino and the rest of Native potentially gone a little too far forward. But so far through this early stage is fairly standard, I'm going to say here. There was that little trade down on the bot side that came away ahead for Native, but all that netted them was a good reset for Scoops. He's managed to pick up that cull. As I mentioned during the draft, that getting this Kai'Sa 2-3 items obviously going to be a very strong win condition for you. That hyper carry in the late game. The Azir, again, the same sort of thing. They've got a very strong front-to-back team fight Native with Cassante Nautilus holding the line up front and Messages and Scooped being those DPS sources during the late game. And then they've just got Fnatic to do kind of what he wants. CBG, on the other hand, they're kind of waiting a little bit for no real reason. I need to see them get a little bit more productive. They're either waiting for this side lane split push of Phenom EX to really come online and start to win those 1v1s versus Shocky, or they need to start making these plays. Karma and Udyr in the early stages of the game are actually a fairly lethal 2 versus 2. Karma's base damages go a long way to helping out in these skirmishes. So you can get a bit proactive during the early stages, this top side.
Oh, the Q3 not landing on a Kisno means that he will be able to pop the Ghost and escape. Nice wave crashing into the top side. Fnatic making sure that Shocky is able to get a reset through here. Meanwhile, Message is actually having a really good time up against N8V. Overall, very even game state right now, Rude. And I like the point you were talking about with these team compositions and kind of the differences between them, because I think that this Taric lock-in for Sandwich on R5 actually kind of throws a wrench into Native's plans. I mean, they're a very dive-heavy composition. When you have things like this Karma and the Taric, you know, makes it a little bit harder to go for an engage.
It does, and they really pivoted the entire draft, right? We were talking on that R5, like, okay, maybe we see the Udyr in the mid lane and then they can pick up another carry jungler. Instead, they pivoted what we thought was their support into a really carry-centric role. N8V obviously not going to play something like that Yasuo the Yone, which does significant amounts of damage. Instead, falling back to the Karma, putting a lot of onus on Kisno, on Phenom, on Last Dance to be the stars of the show. We need to see whether they can get to that point, because these aren't champions that scale inherently badly. But if they can't get to a position of prevalence too soon, I just favor Native and the champions that they've got through the later stages. And I think that when you're playing against people that you particularly may not, or that you value less than yourself, so in this case that Native will think that they are the better team having beat them in the open qualifiers, just sitting back and scaling is a surefire way to win.
And Good way to help that scaling for CB will be taking away this Chemtech Dragon. We do see Fnatic and Scoop trying to go for it. They're going to look for the fight after the objective has been secured. They're rooting down Sandwich, trying to lock him down. No ultimate available on either side, but it's going to favor CB. First Blood going over to Last Dance, and now NACLQ has arrived to the party. It's a double kill for the Varus, and Messages will be taken down as well. 3 kills for Last Dance, and Kisno is trying to chase down Scoop. What a fight for CB Gaming. They have a massive lead with Dragon as well.
This Taric is just so strong already. He's got a Tear of the Goddess. But Native played right into the hands of the enemy team's champions. They engaged onto Sandwich, who was just sat there wailing away heals the entire time. Auto attack, I get another heal. Another 2 auto attacks, another heal comes through. Between that, a summon, a heal, and the little shields that you get from the Bastion, there just wasn't enough damage on Native up front to take out the Taric. They weren't able to get that first reset to allow Fnatic to ascend into a new champion, reset his skills, reset on a kill. It just all went the way of CB. And exactly how they would favor these early skirmishes to go is what we saw.
And already a huge change in the expectations that we had for this series. Of course, these two teams played, last week in the open qualifier, about literally 7 days ago at this point, and very much went CB Gaming side. Native side, but I mean, at this point, CB is showing that the reason that they've been able to upset teams like TFT, like Tony Top, is doing, having really nice team fight mechanics and playing this Taric really, really well.
They do still need to obviously push this lead a little further. We've not, there's not been enough time for me to be angry at them just yet, but they're already doing it. They're already taking these objectives. Rift Herald is going to go down. And honestly, for me, you just slam this in the bot side, give as much gold to Last Dance as possible, and put Scooped as far behind the curve as you can. You don't really want to be feeding the Karma. She's going to be really powerful on just 1-2 items when that Radiant Virtue comes through, potentially a spare support item as well. You have the option of putting it on Phenom, but obviously, versus a Cassante, it can get a little difficult.
They can put it even up at the top side of the map. The Last Dance is going for that on-hit Varus build, which I know is something that you were hoping for after the conclusion of the draft. And already working pretty closely to getting that first item, getting that Mythic with the Noon Quiver already in inventory. Kisno's up on the top side of the map. Not necessarily really a big threat for Shocky, but with the wave in this position, it actually just means that Shocky is not able to farm with a lot of confidence at this point.
No, he's got to just basically not go past this midway point.
Oh, wow. Q3 gets missed. Phenom X still has a lot of damage available. Shocky pops the all out, but Phenom X will just go for the solo kill up top.
Yeah, and that's the power of the wave control right there. Cassante forced to use spells on the wave. It just means that Shocky isn't able really to fight back versus Phenom. It's really good 1v1 play, and now you actually get to really hammer home that advantage. We mentioned it had to be top or bot for the Herald. They're going to use it top lane, not to just get a couple plates though. This is going to be a lot of this turret going into the back pocket of CB. That's 3 plates already. Teleport from Shocky will stop it from being any more, but that's 3 plates as opposed to 1.5. So Rift Herald got a lot of value, and they lost nothing really for it. Fnatic's going to take away a Gromp on the bot side. He's not going to be able to take away the Wolves as well, so you will quite happily take that if you're CB. Another kill and another advantage gained from it.
Really, really cool stuff. I mean, they've been able to make plays on both sides of the map. The wave manipulation, and I think Kisno, despite not playing a factor in actually doing damage to Shocky, him sitting on that ward in the tri-brush meant that Shocky really wasn't able to push up in any meaningful capacity in that 1v1, which allowed for Phenom X to get that advantage. Now a huge advantage up on the top side. Phenom X already has a Divine Sunderer, which is a huge downside if you are ever a tank playing against a champion that can build this item. And now Kisno, once again, is just back down bot lane, trying to make another impact.
Yeah, expect his entire bot side to be gone, so what do I do with the time that I have on the map? Well, I'll support one of my lanes. We've got a Drake spawning here in about 45 seconds, so getting as much control over that river is going to be option number 1 for CB. NACLQ teleports back into the mid lane, not quite completed that Mythic. The Radiant Virtue obviously a little too strong for a mid-game team fight. I think if we'd have seen Native try to contest on one. But it is, as we've mentioned, a nice advantage over to CB, and thus far have been accelerating the pace a bit. Off the back of the first fight, gold lead was about 2k. Now we're looking about 3.5. So overall, good juice so far.
Good juice indeed. Now, Dragon is up, so we see Phenom X making his way down to this mid lane. Message is already chunked out pretty low. Does have the teleport, and he wants to rejoin for a potential re-engage, but I wouldn't be surprised if this just goes up.
They have to. Phenom has Divine Sunderer. You do not win against this Jax, period. If he's down here already, that just means that Native have to give this Drake, excuse me. Not something that they're going to be particularly worried about. They know that they scaled, and a second Drake this early isn't the biggest concern. Query becomes, how are they going to contest for the Drake in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes? Because if they can't do it in 10 minutes, that's already the Ocean Soul going over. And on this composition for CB as well, Ocean Soul so broken already for them. They've got so much healing. The Soul on top of it is just going to compound the issue. And if Native can't stop this Drake, stacking Dagger are going to be in a real pickle.
And Rude, I know you were talking about how the scaling advantage probably goes the way of Native just in terms of the champions, but when you're down like 3,000 gold, looks relatively difficult because you could just press that R button and Taric just basically, negates the entire point of this Native composition, which is to dive onto the backline.
Yep, you're not wrong. They have that Cosmic Radiance, and I think that playing around this such a big tool is going to determine how this game ends, because if Native fully commit onto a Cosmic Radiance, they're going to obviously find themselves in a whole world of woe. If, however, the Cosmic Radiance comes down a little bit early, that means you can wait it out, kite it, and then re-engage afterwards. It really does have such a huge impact on how the game is played. Sandwich with a big onus of responsibility on their shoulders to make sure that they're not pressing that button too early, not calling for an engage when it's not quite warranted, etc. There's a lot of pressure that comes with a Cosmic Radiance.
Means that Native are probably just going to have to look for picks in these next 5 to 10 minutes before, while, CB has this lead and before Native can really scale up with some of their champions. Fnatic probably will have to look to one of the side lanes to try and find an opportunity. But right now, it does look pretty difficult. I mean, Phenom X on the Jax probably can 1v2, and that Taric, as you said, very, very safe when it comes to a potential option. So Native might just have to wait this one out, which might not actually be the best situation despite some of the scaling champions that they have.
Nice effort on a hook from Rhino. I'm looking forward and seeing what CB do next. They've got another Herald spawning in the next minute or so. That'll be great to either break open the top lane or do some more damage to the mid lane. If, of course, you can get a bit more free time for Phenom or even just extend the lane, causes a lot more issues for Shocky. You don't want to be in a long lane versus a Jax who has a lot of chances of chasing you down, causing issues for the Xante and slowing down how strong he's going to get to be. They've broken open that top tier 1 turret without the Herald. That's going to give, again, a little bit more free time over to Phenom to move in and help out on this Herald. We've reached the point in the mid lane now where we're expecting Messages and N8V to just be trading waves, not particularly interacting with one another because of how fast their wave clear is. But just given the positioning of Fnatic, there's no real contest. CB Gaming are going to get this second Herald, and now it's a choice for CB. Do they want to put more gold into Last Dance, or do they want to put more stock into their maps? They try and break open that mid-tier 1, allow for a faster snowball with map play, or by getting more gold onto their Varus.
Yeah, and credit for Native, they actually have, stabilized things quite a bit. The gold has not really gone out of control. All 3 towers for CB are still, all the towers for CB still up except for that top lane one, which the Rift Herald was used on upon the kill of Shocky up on the top side of the map. And so they just are seemingly content with waiting things out. Scoop has actually also evened out that CS gap at least a little bit as well. And it's just going to have to come down to some of these team fights. Again, that Dragon spawning in a minute 30. Rue, do you think that's a good enough point for Native to try and find and engage?
I think they're still going to be struggling, honestly. I'm looking at the gold disparities between the players, and there's not particularly a lot in either role. The biggest is just between the junglers at the minute, where Kisno actually has a fairly sizable advantage just off of a couple of assists and nice objective play that he's gone for. Both of our AD carries, again, about 1k differential in favor of Last Dance, but you expect that when there's that three kills already for them.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the scoop right back in. N8V is still so tanky, though. The Radiant Virtue doing a whole lot there, now healing up with the Empowered W. Kisno coming in as well. It is just an unmovable karma here.
Look at this damage. Look at this damage, by the way. That was Empowered Phoenix Stance and a Demonic Embrace. Messages got chunked to half HP because there was a little firestorm around him for the entire duration of its spell. That alone is enough to probably zone him out of a dragon fight, obviously versus an N9 who's already taken a chunk of damage between the Diego and Azir. But heading toward the dragon again spawns in 25 seconds. Both of these two, they kind of want to get a base off if I'm Karma right here. Yeah, Nem knows that he's got to go back to base, get that HP fully stacked up, get all of your gold spent, be as strong as possible for this pending dragon exchange. If it's just a fight or if it's going to be the Drake taken simply is up to Native to decide, because we know that CB want to get this. That early Drake soul is going to be so potent for them. It's Native that have got to make the decision, and the decision looks to be, let's get the top turret.
A decision to leave. Nice movie. Check out the Oscars eventually at some point, probably. See messages, Fnatic heading up to the top side instead. Might be a trade, top tower, so just some extra gold in favor of that soul point. So they're really putting all their eggs into fight for the 4th dragon basket, right? So they're you know, gonna give this one up and just try to get as strong as possible.
Unless Grapes, this is a Rudude favorite of mine.
Okay.
Give Soul Flip Elder. Do I condone it? No.
What
is it fun when it wins? Yes. No. It's all jokes. It's definitely going to be a fight on 4th Drake. If Native end up giving away the soul for free, that's when we start to question the decisions that they've come to making. But on that 4th Drake, you know, we mentioned, you know, in 10 minutes time, 5 minutes ago, are they going to be in a position? The same sort of thing for me here. I don't think that 5 minutes time is going to be enough for them to have finished all of the big items they need. We've got Scooped, who's still a long way away from the 3-item mark, and yes, we're playing, I think we're playing on 13-1B, so it's a 2-item for the 40% boost, but Kai'Sa, just as a champion, scales so well with those items. You can see 200 gold in the inventory right now for Scooped. He's got a couple longswords working toward whichever item of choice it's going to be it that Phantom Dancer for the double upgrades, or the Navori for the 40% chance. There's a lot of things that are still missing for Native to have that late game team fight boom, and they're not going to have them within 5 minutes when that Drake Soul is going to be live. CB Gaming, they may well have that 2-item spike. You see Last Dance already on this on-hit Varus, probably at the apex of his strength in terms of the power curve he's going to find this game.
That's a huge item disparity in the bot lane. I mean, Last Dance, of course, got those 3 big kills, and it's really showing right now. I think Scoop is going for a Bork or something, just for like a really strong 2-item single target spike. We'll see how valuable it is if that item doesn't actually end up getting completed. See the Rift Herald pop in the mid lane. I think the timer was just maybe running out for Kisna, so we had to put it somewhere. It does kind of force Native mid, so now that we know where the jungler is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that we can that CD can look back on and say, okay, we had this really strong early game, but we didn't actually have a plan for second Herald. We kind of dropped it and hoped, and nothing really came from it. So even if they come away victorious from this game, and even in this series, right, and they in this hypothetical world where they perfect game Native here despite the 1 top turret, there's something for them to look back on and think, okay, how could we have better used this this objective? Still a long way away from all of that. They've got to make sure that they're not losing out on a late game team fight. Not sure they're losing out on a mid game team fight either. We've shifted both of the AD carries into the mid lane. They're going to be playing mid lane ping pong against one another, catching waves and tossing them right on back. And the question then becomes, where am I looking? I'm looking for Sandwich and Kisno actually to start grouping up, pairing with one another and trying to force a little bit of vision. We've got 2 minutes now, 2 minutes 10 on that next Drake. You can start setting up some vision, about 90 seconds left, make it really difficult for Native and the rest to get anywhere near the river. That's when they're going to have a really good reign over the control of the rest of the map.
Yeah, it's not really much about trying to find kills right now, or even a little bit later. The main thing for both of these teams definitely is just going for the Soul Drake. I feel like neither. See Messages holding up the white flag. He's like, please, like, let's just not fight for the next 2 minutes. Let's just chill. We'll have like a fun time at the Dragon, but until then, I don't think either of these squads really want to do much.
And I know that the Morello Nomicon's item path got changed, so if this is a completed Morello second, then that's not the biggest 2-item spike for an Azir. That's even assuming that Messages can get there by the time that the Drake comes to fruition, where Nem9 opting into a supportive item for the team, for the Varus, for the Jax. Staff of Flowing Water already picked up, so if this boost goes on to Kisno, this means that the Udyr is going to deal significant amounts of damage. For those unaware, because Staff of Flowing Water are not a particularly prevalent item in the meta, but it actually gives a lot of boost to, it's basically boosted damage to spells in particular, which really works for well with a champion like Cassio, for example. And then Yeah, well, there we go. Great stuff from Kai, actually. Nice little hop over. Here we go.
Oh,
Fights.
yeah, another fight. The Messages ultimate just doesn't connect at all. Here comes that Cosmic Radiance, and CB Gaming are just going to continue to push forward. Fnatic has not entered the fight yet, but Shocky is nearly taken out. 2-3 does a lot. Here comes the Heartbreaker in. Fnatic already has to go golden, and Rhino is taking a whole lot of arrows from Last Dance. Look at the health bars from CB Gaming, Rude. Nobody is really threatened at all. And with the Dragon spawning in 35 seconds, Native have to get the hell out of there if they want to try and save this soul.
I like this, though, from Native. They went for a little fight early on. No Cosmic Radiance for this pending Soul fight. It's a huge cooldown that CB aren't going to have. They need to find a way to deal with this Taric, deal with the Karma. Both of them are pumping out shields, heals out of their minds right here. It is not easy for Native. They do not have the damage yet. That second item, Blade of the Ruined King, hasn't been completed. Messages hasn't found the time to go back to base. He has got TP ready, so if he had the item, he could go for it. But Kisno just charging forward.
Yeah, they really don't care about any sort of damage on the Native side. Scoop and Fnatic up on the backside. Native does have early access into the Dragon Pit, and actually Rhino wants to go for a fight, going into the Dredge line first. Phenom X onto the back line. Rhino nearly taken out. Jockey does a huge amount of space generation, and Native might have found the fight that they need. Message takes the first kill. A huge stun onto Fnatic with the stolen Jax. Kisno goes down as well. Scoop picks up a third. Are you kidding me? Native, they go 2 for 1, but now NACLQ and Last Dance are still up there looking to try and finish the job onto the rest of the low health bars. A double kill onto Last Dance. It is a 3 for 2. The Dragon still not taken.
Yeah, Native know that they've got to deal with the Taric, deal with the Karma, but if they're dealing with those, who's dealing with the Varus? This guy is still pumping out DPS 2 items already. They may be down in numbers, but they feel confident to start this Drake. If they can zone away Shocky, Rhino, and Scooped, they're going to get the soul here, Grapes. Rhino's on the flank, though. He's looking for this angle to find them. 7k HP, it's not enough.
They're going to knock up. Last Dance just go all out for him. The shield bow has been popped.
Oh!
Last Dance will get one before he's taken out. NACLQ does a lot of damage to Scoop versus the Karma. How much damage can this Kai'Sa do? The answer is a whole lot. The Dragon is still at 5,000 HP. This is the soul. Teleport coming in again from Messages to make it a 2v1, but Kisno is here. Kisno has the smite, and Kisno will be getting shuffled away by Messages. A brilliant Emperor's Divide will deny the soul from CB Gaming.
Beautiful from Messages. That TP well spent in the end. It denies the smite steal from Kisno. A Native, they buy themselves 5 more minutes. We've seen the fights, they've been incredibly difficult. But with this kill, this death timer, CB Gaming, they're getting very bold right here, walking toward the Baron. I don't know that starting this is a good idea with your AD carry still in base. Or they just may say balls to that. They want the objective.
Yeah, Scoop is currently on the reset and is now back in the fountain. CB Gaming going to start this up. The Taric actually really helps take this Dragon down, providing a lot of buffs and everything to Last Dance. The rest of the team Messages trying to get into the pit. Fnatic does have the smite, but no flash to get inside. The spacing from CB is too good. They're going to secure the Baron Nashor. A brilliant rotation to compensate somewhat for the loss of that Drake.
Great compensation. I'll take that every day, right? All we've given over is a little bit of temporary healing over to Native. It's not like they secured the soul for themselves for the rest of the game. But a Baron going over to CB, this is beautiful. Look at all of the turrets still standing. There are 4 turrets outside of the base. This is so much gold standing on the map for CB to secure themselves if they can manage to break open those turrets. With a Baron, you're expecting them to be able to finish off a mid-tier 1, but Native are stalwart in their defense. They don't want to let it go down too easily. They're going to put up a fight. And with CB just getting a couple kills, getting the Baron, they should have a lot of gold in their back pocket. So a base before you reset yourself out onto the map can be very worthwhile. All 5 of them head back to base. I say that as an M9 cancels his recall and goes down to the bot side, but spending as much gold as possible and reasserting yourself is going to be exactly what CB needs to do.
Now, the possible problem for CB Gaming's team composition, Rude, is that when you look at the champions, like their engage is not great. You know, you're looking for a Chain of Corruptions or a Jax flank, basically, to start a fight. And, you know, when it comes to having this Baron and trying to siege down towers, I mean, we've seen it already in these first 25 minutes. It's not the easiest thing for CB Gaming to do. Maybe the Baron buff will help them out a little bit, but they're going to really have to just Deathball as 5, which allows for the 1-3-1 that Native set up to maybe help them get a little bit of gold back.
And hopefully with this Death Ball, they'll be able to take down mid and bot lane. I'm glad that that's where they're putting their resources here. I actually wouldn't mind just seeing Phenom ignore that top lane, ignore Shocky, and sort of keep pushing in on that bot side. The next big objective is that Ocean Drake, 2.5 minutes away. If you can get a turret down in the mid lane, they've already managed that, maybe another one and a turret down on that bot side. Not only does it give you a lot of gold, but it gives you so much wiggle room into this bot side jungle, makes native face checking this area so much more difficult and gives you that much control around the Ocean Soul. Because yes, native stalled for that 5 minutes, but we're already 3 minutes of the way through that timer, Grapes. 2 minutes until the Drake spawns, and then native have to do it all over again. The good news is that this time they have Morellonomicon finished, they've got Blade of the Ruin King finished. This is a more on-hit variant of the Kai'Sa build for Scooped. That Rage Blade second means that we're heading towards, you know, clearly not an Infinity Edge, but you go for that. I don't even know if you can buy an Avoid with Rage Blade, to be honest.
I think so, yeah.
So you've got the Razor Blade now, 3 items on Scooped. This is the comfort zone for native, where yes, they may be down a little bit in gold, but they have an AD carry who's got 3 items, who's proven himself to be not just appropriate for this level of play, but championship worthy in this level of competitive League of Legends. The carry forces are there for native now.
Yeah, surprisingly, we didn't talk about the bot lane matchup at all, you know, in the pregame entering into this matchup. And I think what we were, you know, hyping up Fnatic as being like probably the best player here in this tournament. Scooped is very, very close in terms of a player that is probably NACL worthy, but just didn't get an opportunity this time around. I mean, he has shown it time and time again. He's really, really strong. And might have to be the difference maker in a potential fight around this dragon. It is 1 minute until this Drake spawns, and it looks like Rhino might get caught out beforehand. The big fight already started off, but the Taric is dead. There's no Cosmic Radiance to be issued. Shocky aim with the all-out, takes down Kisto, and a huge Q3 double kill here for Scoop. Another double for Shocky, and Native Gaming find the angle to win the fight. Damn the dragon, we're gonna go straight for the base.
They win the pivotal engagement. Shocky finds the knock-up into the backline. Last Dance falls. Sandwich doesn't even get to cast Cosmic Radiance, and native are off to the races. That 3-item comfort zone for Scooped never got touched, never felt any pressure at all. 2 turrets are going to go their way. They will be able to set up for this dragon. I think death timers are just lenient enough to native so that they won't have to worry about CB trying to contest this. They can get in. And the question is whether they can get out or not. I imagine they'll be fine, but we still just have to wait and see.
What a play from Shocky on that Cassante. I mean, first of all, you know, catching out Sandwich before the fight began was absolutely crucial. But Shocky there, you know, getting the all-out to take down the jungler and then instantly jumping back into the Q3. I mean, you see messages, didn't even use the ultimate in that fight, and it was still a 4 for 0, I think, at the end of the day. So really good stuff out of Native, out of this young top laner that we were talking about a little bit earlier. And now actually kind of back into this game at an even state. You know, the duel is even, and they might even actually have that scaling advantage that you were talking about earlier.
Next Baron going to be a little bit telling here because CB Gaming have got a lot of vision out of this top side. And M9 actually TP'd into this top lane to secure them at this tier 2 turret. And they are going to be able to push in, secure themselves, like I say, a lot of control over the top side jungle. There's a little bit of time still before that Baron spawns, and that time needs to be spent by native reclaiming the control of the jungle. The issue they're going to have is that it probably won't extend to reclaiming control of the river. They're going to have to use a few sweepers on their way through their own jungle if they want to sweep out the vision that's been left there by CB. It looks like CB are also just kind of backing away here. Get mid prio. They've reset a couple of members onto the map. Karma and Taric. They're going to restock up on either items or control wards here, depending on your persuasion of lane. Well, the Baron spawning in 30 seconds. I'm a little surprised by the lack of pressure that both of these teams are heading over there with it.
Yeah, it just seems like right about now they're making their way over. You see right now CB Gaming has control of vision in this top side jungle of the map. Messages and the rest of Native don't really have an angle into the Baron pit right now. But, you know, that could all change. If you find another really good engage, Rhino and Shocky, all he relies on them to find it. The Baron is spawning, and you see CB as 5 headed right into pit.
The thing about that last fight, we have to remember, Sandwich didn't get to play League of Legends. The Taric didn't exist. It's a very distorted version of how a team fight will play out in perfect circumstances. Of course, both of these teams are going to be working to make sure that those perfect circumstances can't happen. Shocky, TP to the top side. CB thought about a collapse, but you can't really collapse onto Shocky around this top side wall. He just ults one person, drags them across the map, and then all of a sudden it's a 1v1, potentially 1v5 in favor of Native. So good call off there as CB now. They're in a bit of a pickle. Look at mid lane right now. Messages, who has TP, he's wailing away on that tier 3 turret.
They're forcing CB to start. The Scoop has a good angle in. Here comes Rhino here with a huge knockup. Cosmic Radiance does come out, and Nem9 is flashing into the backside. Shocky has a huge knockup. Rhino is the first to fall. Last Dance still is untouched in the middle of the team composition. Messages now forcing CB into the pit. A huge shuffle could come out. Scoop's already dominating. There it is. The Emperor's Divide. CB potentially dropping the Baron. Gets secured by Kizno, and he is still up with Phenom X. The rest of Native are hitting away. Phenom X still alive. It is Kizno in a 1v2. A triple kill in for Scoop, but that is not the one who finishes the fight. There's the ace. It comes through for Native. They win the fight at the Baron, and Messages TP's mid.
It's so close, Grapes. The entire time that fight, I did not know who was winning. Sandwich was healing, Scoops was DPSing, but what mattered was Fnatic and Messages in the pit, destroying CB. They've got 20 seconds on death time as they're pushing for more than the inhibitor. They've got that down already. 2 Nexus turrets and a Nexus to claim, and they've got a wave to work with.
If Fnatic had the Baron, it would be a very easy take, but now might just be a little bit close. First Nexus tower is almost down. Second soon to follow. Sandwich and Last Dance are up. They are not going to try and flip it for a potential end. It will just be Messages and Fnatic backing off with an open Nexus in CB's door.
Woo! Gold is dead even, but CB have got nothing standing in their base. The Nexus turrets are down. And there's an Ocean Soul spawning in 1 minute, 10 seconds. Grapes, we get to do it all over again. Another 5v5. Importantly then, what we have to look at are our summoner spells. Scoop, Burn Flash, Burn Cleanse. They won't be ready for the Ocean Soul fight. Messages though, he's got that Scoop. He can find some people if they're mispositioned, if they're a little too far forward, or even if he just needs to reposition. That Flash is such a pivotal tool, and one that is also given over to Last Dance, the main carry for CB that we've seen so far this game. 8-3-1, 4 items with a Guardian Angel finished as well. Feeling very safe with the Flash ready. Native are the ones who can push in through mid lane, and it's CB that are in this little game of chicken that they kind of have to play with Native, because if they commit too hard to the Dragon, Native run it down mid lane. Like I say, there's no inhibitor, there's no Nexus turrets. Native just end the game if they spend too long in the Drake pit.
Now that's the question. What is Native, what is CB going to do? Do they try to get that soul right now, or do they just wait another 5 minutes? Triple Ocean Drake actually is rather impactful, even if there's no soul in the works. You can see that CB is maybe fishing for an opportunity to find a pick on the Scoop, but Native is not letting them have it just yet. You can see Rhino maybe looking for something. The hook does come out onto Kizno. The Chain of Corruption is fired, but not connecting. Shocky still continuing to chase. Sandwich pops the Shirelias, and the rest of CB head for the hills.
If Sandwich can auto-attack, CB can win a team fight. That's the crucial part here. Your Q is on a 0-second cooldown if you're getting double auto-attacks off. It just basically resets it for free. There's no way for CB into the pit, and Native just melt it. Fnatic was really smart there whilst all that scuffling was going on in the river. Actually just walked. He was over wards, but it didn't matter. He just threatened the back door. Even just the slightest hint of CB getting backdoored was enough for them to say, all right, we can't go any further than this. This is as far as our stand may let us go. And it gives over this Dragon. And now, despite all of that early Drake stacking for CB, the stalling from Native has been so important that they have got a soul point for themselves as well. If in 5 minutes, neither of these teams have closed out, we're going to go again, and there's going to be a huge objective up for grabs.
It's the reverse sweep, in the Drakes.
Reverse
sweep in the Drags. I always think of the Dragon takes as like an NBA or an ML or a baseball series. I guess that's not really popular over in the UK, but best of 7 basically. No team ever comes back from a 3-0 unless you're the Boston Red Sox in 2004. And so that's maybe the situation.
Unless you're Native in this game.
Or you're Native Gaming in 2023 apparently against CB. So we'll see if that ends up happening. The opportunity is certainly there right now, Rude, and I honestly, at this point, I definitely favor Native in any 5v5. It seems like despite Sandwich, popping that Cosmic Radiance around the Baron pit, Native had the tools to stay alive and then just eventually pump out all their damage after the ultimate expires.
We've now reached that point. where we do start to favor just the native composition. It requires perfect circumstances for CB to get a team fight that they're going to be winning. This is full support Karma, right? We've got Redemption, we've got Chemtech Putrefier, and the Radiant Virtue online. This is not a DPS Karma, so magic damage just pretty much doesn't exist outside of Kisno, and the rogue auto attacks we're going to be seeing from Phenom that have that magic damage amplifier. So if Last Dance and Phenom can't dish out the damage, they're going to be struggling. And if Sandwich isn't perma-chain healing everybody, again, a lot of issues going to go CB's way. Where for Native, it just feels a little bit easier. You have Shocky in the front line. You have Scooped and Messages doing what they can in the back line to just constantly whip out that damage. And if there's any form of CC at all that lands onto Last Dance, you have to feel like Scooped, with that killer instinct, can just dive in and almost assassinate the Varus in a second.
Does have the Guardian Angel, so would have to kill him twice, but definitely the opportunity still is there. You see Shocky and Rhino just continuing to posture on the front line, just not afraid to continue to go for really aggressive engages. And it seems to be working so far for Native, at least in these last 15 minutes or so. It seems like the tide has kind of flipped, and now Native is the one in control of this game number 1. Can you believe it's the best of 3? We got not only the rest of the series, but like a whole nother one after this as well. Big day here in the NACLQ.
Honestly, this is kind of the beauty, right? Like we mentioned in the pregame coming into this, I expected this to be a fast matchup, but I'm really happy that it's not, right? We always say we expect these things, but hope for the opposite. CB, they've given us the opposite. They've given us a challenge for game number 1, and they've given Native a challenge as well. They are the ones now in control of mid lane, setting themselves up to go toward this Baron. They got first push. It's Shocky who's down on that bot side, who's trying to make this split push threat a reality. Phenom should be able to answer and go down to that bot side and, again, you know, have that 1v1 effort. But now that mid lane inhibitor is back up, Native have a little more work to do. They have to push through one extra structure before they can go for a mid lane flip, as Sandwich, who's maybe looking for a flash right there. All summoner spells are ready. If we're having a 5v5 and Native win it, they win the game. CB get it and they win the fight. It's still up in the air because they've got some structures to go through, but it puts them in a great position for another one later.
I thought I was almost getting deja vu there with CB just rotating their way over to the Baron and almost starting it as soon as it spawns, and it looks like instead we're going to see a flip of the script. Native are burning this down fast and already have taken it out. That is the Baron buff in hand, but what can CB find on the other side? Scoop is taken rather low. Phenom X dies onto the backside. Scoop is still alive and will finally get taken down with the Leech Strike. Concentrating onto the backside means that Shocky is unable to find any sort of assassination attempt here. He pops the all out, but is just going to have to use it to escape. Phenom X still into 2v1, still so tanky, still jumping forward in onto the Native mid jungle. And it looks like CB
look at mid lane, look at mid lane.
Win out on this fight, but on the other side, Native will take down N9 to mid lane.
He's going huge!
Going to stun him out. Messages is so big. It's a double kill for the Azir. What can Last Dance and Sandwich do? Can they close the gap? No flash is available. More messages, but Sandwich does have his. There comes the shuffle forward. Messages! One shot Sandwich without any summoners being blown, and it might be the Azir to solo win this game for Native.
He's just 1v4 taking the game from CB's hands. He teleported into the mid lane to create a little bit of an issue for CB. Instead, he created an absolute chaos.
Yeah, he goes golden now again. Phenom X unable to find something. Last Dance still at full HP, but it's a 4v2. 20 seconds until any reinforcements arrive for CB. The Nexus, remember, is exposed. There are no Nexus turrets to protect the golden crystal, and instead Native is gonna not flip the game again, but finally actually potentially gonna get this reverse sweep on this Dragon Soul.
Take a moment, everybody. Woo! This game was very much back in CB's hands. They found Scooped, the 6-item hyper-scaled late-game AD carry Phenom, stepped up huge around the Baron and took him down, but Messages in a feat of ingenuity solo TPs into the mid lane. 1v4s, takes down 2 people in the process, and then manages to secure a Drake Soul for Native, genuinely rescuing the game. If he doesn't do that, it puts CB in a position to take a fight around the Dragon in a 5v4 position. The outcome of that will remain unknown for time to come. But for now, Native have secured themselves Baron, they've secured themselves Ocean Soul, and they just, if they want to, can run it down mid lane. There's no Nexus turrets, remember? Just an inhibitor and a Nexus standing in their way between game 1 and victory. It is a very straightforward route if they want to go for the 5v5 death ball approach. That does play straight into CB's hands. It might not be the one they opt into, but that option is open to them.
41-minute game 1 between our 1 seed and our 4 seed here in Group C. CB Gaming proving that they are capable of being these Titan killers potentially. They have lockdown messages. He has to pop Sony's Hourglass early. Rhino finds a huge depth charge, and messages pops the shuffle to keep everybody away. Cosmic Radiance does come out, though. This could be a big fight for Native. Scoop is down. Rhino's taken out as well. Messages still hammering it onto the backside, but it's a double kill already for Phenom X. Messages is taken out. Sandwich picks up the shutdown, and only Shocky remains the 5v1 with the tank Cassante, the lone survivor. What can CB Gaming get off of this? They have a wave potentially, but Shocky is going to be a pretty big disruptor. Firing in onto
Ocean
the
Soul.
inhibitor. Sandwich and NACLQ are here to try and defend the game. They
They
land
need
the
the damage
shots.
for
Is
it.
this enough damage to take down the Cassante? He's headed straight for the Nexus. They have to force a recall to come out. Cassante is really tanky and could potentially
Phenom,
just end the game. He forces at least one back out of Phenom X, but watch the rest of CB Gaming. They are hammering in onto the base. The inhibitor in mid is sure to go down. Shocky still buying time, but now the Nexus towers are under fire here. Shocky's still alive. We gotta head over to the Nexus. Is CB going to win the game? The second Nexus tower is down. Here comes Rhino off the base. I don't think it's enough. Last Dance is going to have enough. Phenom X comes with the TP, and CB Gaming will upset Native in game 1 of the best of 3.
There are just no words. Native, they had the Baron, they had the Ocean Soul, but they did not have the composition. Karma and Kizno just jumping into messages. Force the stasis first of all. That was great to start us off. But then they get a reposition. There's this re-engage that has to come through. The Cosmic Radiance does all the work that it needs to. They take down Scoop, they take down messages, and yes, they didn't take down Shocky in the end, but it did not matter. They sent the 2 people down mid lane to end this first matchup. I mean, CB got handed game 1 in the... They got the game sort of slapped away from them in the OQ matchup. This was a complete reversal, a complete flip of the script, and a very much deserved win for CB.
I think
Take it,
I think we
Hawkeye,
broke
you-
grapes. I think we might have broken grapes, rude dude.
Hawk?
Yeah.
I think Hawk is muted. You're muted on Discord. I can't hear you.
Oh my god, it's awkward. I was muted on Discord. I think we broke grapes. That's what I was saying. I think we broke grapes.
I'm a Raven.
He doesn't know what to do with himself anymore. Grapes, how you doing? How you doing, bud?
In need of sustenance, I think
in need
is
of yeah.
the appropriate response
fair.
right there.
So rude. I mean, that game was insane, by the way. CB Gaming, they lock in the Tarek Udyr Karma comp. It looks really good early on. Then it looks terrible for about 20 minutes, and then it looks really good one more time. What happened there? You said we almost wouldn't even need to watch this game. CB would lose so fast. Do you have something to say for yourself about this one?
I've got the clown face makeup upstairs, so I'll be back soon. I do look silly because CB absolutely proved me wrong, and I'm so glad that they did. We always love these tight games when they get to bless us. Really, that game was just full of highlight moments. Like you said, Hawk, it looked so good for Native for like the whole mid to late game portion. They reverse sweep Drakes, messages, God modes in the mid lane, but they still lose. It's absolutely incredible that just death balling from CB, they recognized their win condition. They were like, right, okay, we kill Scooped, we win the game. And then Messages does what he does in the mid lane. They're like, there's a second carry that we've got to factor it in, dealt with, and they just hand like the most convincing fight that you could find. Native didn't take down anybody.
I mean, watching it, I was screaming my head off to nobody while I was muted in Discord. I mean, that was just such an insane game. But rude dude, for a little bit of solidarity, I'll be fully honest with you. You're not the only one putting on the clown face makeup. I think Grapes might know what I was referring to from the show this past week. Kai, roll the clip.
Who is your comparison, Hawk?
All right, Grapes, this one's gonna get clipped on Twitter. Y'all better get your clip tool ready. I have Wildcard Gaming because they started off hot, but they're not gonna be able to keep it up. It's making me cringe.
Who is your comparison, Hawk?
All right, Grapes, this one's gonna get clipped on Twitter. Y'all better get your clip tool ready.
That has
I have
aged
Wildcard Gaming
incredibly
because Wildcard upset the second place team in NACL last night 2-0, and now CB Gaming just took a game off of Native, so
You
I'm
just need
honestly
2 of me
impressed
on
at
the
how
you
quickly
see,
that's.
I compare CB to Fear as the team that's currently first place in the standings, so of NACL. So I think that I don't know, the podcast might just have to be me, like, hosting myself next week. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
Here is Hawk and all of his bad takes about League of Legends teams in NACL. iGrapes will now present the correct facts.
Honestly, that does seem like it's what Salty Runback has turned into, because I mean, seriously, that is I'm really like, oh god, like that has aged so poorly in half a week. Like, I can't believe it. Hopefully, Native for my maybe like public image can bring it back 2-1. But I mean, I really do think we should keep the spotlight on CB right now, because what a game that was. I do think we have a replay from the fight that we sort of missed when Messages TP'd in. I don't know if y'all want to break that one down.
Ooh,
We do
apparently
not.
we do
That's
not
fine.
have
Oh,
that one.
okay,
It's
we don't.
okay.
Never mind.
You
Sorry,
can
sorry
watch
about
the
that.
clip. It's probably on social somewhere, maybe eventually.
Here,
But
here is my best play from the game that I lost. There we go. Messages will have the footage somewhere, I believe.
Yeah. It
If they win,
happens.
if they win the series 2-1, it goes on Twitter. If they don't, it's axed. We can't post that.
Oh, yeah, honestly, and that's the same for like opposite for my clip, right? Like if CB wins the series, it goes on Twitter. If they don't, like it's fine. Like we can all forget it happened and it's fine.
Native were
But
doing it for content, guys. They just needed 3 games so they could get the most spotlight out of the
true,
time possible.
true,
yeah,
true.
but I mean, sort of like if we want to look ahead to the next game, while we have the time, you all were talking about in the draft about how CB has not necessarily played conventionally. They've sort of thrown out the script of play for bot lane exclusively and gone for these more creative strategies. And this game, we already saw it. It wasn't a Blitzcrank, but it was a Tarek, Karma, Udyr. What do we sort of make of this playstyle? Rude, I'll toss it to you first, maybe. What do we sort of make of this playstyle that CB Gaming is going for?
I'm a big fan. Anything that defies the meta, I'm all here for it, right? Like we've seen so many complaints, so many comments on the internet of just, oh, 13-1, 13-1B, they're so stale. It's so obvious what every team's going to pick. Anybody that challenges that, I don't care if they're winning or not. I'm just
Yeah.
here for it. They've managed to, pick these insane compositions and now win with it. Just adds that cherry on top of the cake. They've clearly known what the composition was going for. So the fact that they're playing to it and winning is just an extra bonus.
Yeah, I think that specifically, like when that Kai'Sa Nautilus gets locked in, on the other side for Native, then you don't have to necessarily, I mean, for CB, you don't have to go for that same matching and playstyle, getting as much poke as possible. You could play your own strategies. I think the Blitzcrank and the Tarek for Sandwich definitely has worked super well for this team. And I think that hopefully that will probably be able to continue. I wonder what Native can do for this draft to kind of switch things up, because obviously you can see the hands are there. Of course, in the mid game, late game, it really works out. So that's, I think, what we have to take a look at. What is Native able to do in the early game, maybe in the draft a little bit, to make sure that the game isn't at such an unwinnable spot at such an early point as it was in game number 1.
Yeah, truly. But it is worth noting too. I mean, CB, or rather Native, didn't exactly play like super stock meta either. Like they had the Kai'Sa Nautilus, so they were doing something a little bit different as well, even if it was not as crazy as the Tarek. I mean, Tarek, I love Tarek in competitive. I think anytime there's a Tarek in a game, it's always fun to watch. It changes the landscape of team fights so much with just the Cosmic Radiance. Definitely one of the most powerful ultimates in the game. I do believe we have draft already about on deck. We were pretty far behind in game. I got word I took way too long running the draft last time. I was the one clicking the buttons, having fun. So my bad, but that just means it's a short break. We don't even have to go to one. I think we can get the draft on screen. Grapes and Rude, take it away for game 2.
Oh wow, we already got to start things off. Okay, great.
Hawk, press your buttons, please.
Yeah, Hawk's gonna have to press the buttons a little bit faster this time around, or Kai. I don't know who's running this time around. Sides have swapped for this game. CB will be on the blue side this time around. It seems like Native really wants to be on red this time around. So it means that there might be some differences in the way that the draft goes, not just necessarily in terms of what champions worked well in the last game.
When I was on the Native co-stream with Columnar, the GM for Native, they every time they had red side because they were the highest seed. They came into it at seed number 2, so they just had higher seed every time. They always picked red side. They can play into a messages or shocky counter pick, and it enables their draft quite significantly. So them being on red side is more their comfort zone, at least from what I saw from them in the open qualifiers. Now we have to see whether that translates, of course, into a second game. I'm so far happy because we've seen the exact same bands pretty much. And your question, Grapes, when we sort of had this pre-game for game number 2 was, what do Native do? I would like to see them just go super standard. Don't let CB sort of stoop to the level of unconventional bot lanes. Let's pick Ash Varus bot lane. Let's dumpster them, and let's
Right.
just never get and give them an opportunity to play.
Yeah, because I feel like the Kai'Sa Nautilus, while it can find kill angles, like if CB is able to survive, it's not necessarily as useful. I mean, of course, Scoop was on 6 items, but just kept repeatedly getting cut off and taken down because it was so easy for CB to get onto the Kai'Sa because it's relatively short range. We'll see if that ends up really being the case. The messages Azir definitely was a highlight of their team composition last time around and is a rather stock standard pick. But on the other side, that Udyr definitely was a big factor as well for CB.
So locking in again, salty runback style, they are more than happy to pull out the same drafts thus
Yeah.
far. Have to see whether we get a Viego lock in for Fnatic. It's
Oh,
expected. Yep, there we go. That one comes through. I'm looking now towards CB to say if they're going to go for the Varus and the Karma again,
do
or
it.
if they want to try and divert a little bit in their plan. It's the Yone in the mid lane for Nem9, one of the specials that we see him go for every so often. Pairing up again with a Phenom Jax, it's a great set of solo lanes for CB to play with. They did incredible stuff with their team fighting last time, and Ione has, again, great team fight potential.
Nem9's Twitter profile, I believe, is literally just that splash art right there for Yon. So, kind of just is enough to tell you how well he is able to perform on this champion. Actually, something I was thinking about earlier. We didn't have enough time to talk about it, in the pregame section, but I think Nem9 has been able to always, take games off of these 1 seeds in these first games. You remember back to Team Ambition in spring
Mm-hmm.
2022 against 100 Thieves next.
They were
Nem9
the
pulled out
only
the Yone,
team.
took a game off of them. Native, of course, is seeded third in this bracket, but it could potentially be a very similar story.
The King Slayer, one might try to dub
Oh,
in future.
hmm.
Any narrative builders in chat can enjoy that one to the ends of the earth. Now I'm looking at the second round of bans. I already noticed this Blitzcrank ban early doors from Native. This suggests that they're probably heading towards a squishier style of support and are quite happy to do so. This is quite interesting to me because they've not opted for this red side of we will counterpick solo lane. They've instead just gone for the same top side that won them so much of the mid game last time. Opted into the Varus this time, so Scoop's going to be on again a more stock standard AD carry as opposed to that Kai'Sa. Question is if this support 5 counter pick is going to have all of that control they were hoping for.
We're just not gonna play standard, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We're
I
just
like
not
this
gonna do
though.
it. Yeah, the
Look at the
Ziggs actually,
composition.
yeah, very high range. I think it works pretty well in the natives comp.
And so far, CB, they've got the magic damage profile. Honestly, it's like mixed damage across solo lanes. They've got Udyr that's doing, a little bit of magic damage, is what I say, mixed damage. Jackson Yone are physical damage with a little bit of magic, is what I mean. But the Ziggs in the bot lane really rounds out the composition. They've now got a good, diverse damage profile. It doesn't mean that Native can just build plated steel caps, armor, and be successful. They're going to need a little bit more of a profile toward magic damage unless they want the Ziggs to absolutely tear them apart. We have already seen Ziggs actually in the NACL ecosystem. APA played this
APA.
yesterday and pulled out an incredible win versus TSM Challengers. If you did not see that game again, highly recommend that you focus on that
The
or
POV
focus
clip.
that a
Did you see
little
the
bit
POV
later
clip?
because that was incredible. But they've got
Yeah.
Ziggs here, not unseen, a good damage profile in the bot lane, and a very neutralizing laner as well.
Yeah, and the Leona will be paired alongside it for Sandwich, as he did have his champ pool targeted very, very heavily. The R5 for native is a Braum, which does work really well actually into some of the picks that, of course, CB have selected. Of course, really good into these engaged melee supports, things like the Nautilus and
Yep.
Leona, and will be able to block a lot of the damage that Ziggs is able to put out as well.
And very good versus things like Jax and Udyr also. These short range champions, Braum absolutely eats it up. It's actually a very good disengaged champion when you can use the Glacial Fissure effectively. Scoops is going to have a pretty difficult time this game because there's a lot of champions with a lot of mobility, and he's playing Varus. Varus doesn't build Gale Force. If Varus builds a Gale Force, he does negative damage. So you do not want that mythic on this champion. So you're looking sort of typically to head toward a shield bow and opt into an auto attack route. But this time, I'm actually here for poke. I'm here for
Yeah.
lethality virus. I'm a very big hater on lethality virus. But this game, I think I'll allow it.
Gotta fight fire with fire, right? It's in some capacity. I mean, there's really
Poke
not a
with poke.
whole lot of other range options for native other
Hmm.
than that potential piercing arrow coming out from Scooped. And it's not like the rest of CB is necessarily super squishy, but of course you're gonna be able to do decent damage to Nem9 and to Phenom X on this Jax potentially. So it's definitely possible for some of these teams it's definitely possible for a native to survive with this poke Varus, especially because messages on these here will do a decent amount of damage as well.
And I think, right, looking at how the draft for native has gone, that with the Bromine on 5 and with the team fight death ball matching, really, that they've seen from CB, they're just going to sort of double down here. The side lane, I think, was largely untapped potential for both of these two teams. It's something that they could head to if they fancied it. We've got, Cassante versus Jax once again, but a Yone versus an Azir, that's a completely different side lane. The Yone will be demolishing that, can perform dives very easily, and we could have to see messages spec into an early Zhonya's here if necessary.
It's maybe a little bit scary. Again, we talked about how native had dive in that game one. I think CB have a lot of backline threat. The Yone and the Leona add a lot to that hard engage, to that potential opportunities to start fights, and that actually might help CB in some way as we start to get into game. I think lobby is going to begin in just a little bit. I heard that we did do a poll in the Twitch chat, and native
Hmm.
won. Native got destroyed in terms of who's going to win this game. There's a ton of CB fans here in the Twitch chat, and they're definitely out in force here against some of the favorites here in the tournament.
It's good to see that representation for your squad is always something that we're here for. So, again, get some love in the chat because nobody was expecting, at least from my perspective, I was not expecting CB to put up quite such a performance in game number one. Right, it would have been one thing had they have secured that early game lead and then just snowballed it through to a victory. That's a really strong fundamental way to play a win out and sort of assert yourself as a strong team. But the strong teams are the ones that win games that they should lose. And
Right.
CB should have lost that last game. They'd done their hard work in the early stages, but lacked in the mid game. They were down an Ocean Drake, down a Baron, and still found a win. That's the hallmark of somebody and a team who know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think that it actually is really impressive because how they were seemingly so far ahead, and then it looked like things were kind of spiraling out of control. Messages after that big shuffle on his ear, I kind of marked in my head like, okay, native is probably going to win this game at this point, but CB still found a way. The Tarek with Sandwich just had such huge impact in that fight. They were able to pick off Scoop multiple times, and despite falling down behind, having an open Nexus, and still being able to have that tenacity to stay in this game with both mentally and physically. Very, very impressive out of a team full of players that, of course, haven't had a ton of experience at this level yet.
No, they haven't. But we can stop the stalling. Game is ready. I believe we got the words in our ears. Thank you very much to Kai on production. Segues us into game number 2 here. Native versus CB in a 1-0 for CB. See if they can take a 2-0.
What a crazy thing that would be. I mean, out of all of the scores, if there were like betting odds for every score of every series, I think probably one of the worst odds would be 2-0 for CB over native. I think that is not something that anybody would have, potentially put up. But if they were able to hold the line in that game one and find a very similar advantage this time around, hey, who's saying that cannot possibly happen?
Good little early scouting, honestly, by CB. Just doing the throw a little bomb in there, hope that you don't get spotted and don't get caught. But level ones, once again, have not been particularly eventful. No vision actually got placed down by native on their sort of excursion into the bot side dry brush. So there's actually a bit of an advantage for CB. They've got, thank you very much. This is the advantage that native have got, is that this bot side ward and the control over the lane, at least level 1, may be a little more favorable for native, but their jungler is going to be spotted all the way through. Fnatic is going to be seen on his Raptors, going to be seen if he heads up toward the Krugs. There's plenty of information for Kisno to work with. Let's see what his decisions are based off that.
Of course, we saw them both both junglers started at the top side and worked their way down last time around. Instead, we're seeing them both start on their red side quadrant. So maybe top side will be a bit more of a factor for Kizno, or maybe it's an early level 3 gank down towards that bottom lane. Well, we're not entirely sure just yet. We'll have to just keep waiting and seeing. Fnatic, I would be pretty surprised if he tries to go up against this Jax very, very early on, but we'll see.
I honestly, wouldn't know. Again, top lane, I will happily admit, is my worst role, and I've seen it go either way. I'm happy to chalk it up to skill matchup, and then if somebody wants to beef me for it, I'm all here. I'm all here for it. I actually agree this is some Rude lore.
Yeah.
Peaked D2 as an AD carry. I'm not flexing,
Ooh.
but went and
That's a
played top
flex.
lane to try and learn more about the role. I ended plat 4 when I played top lane. Decided that was not the way to go forward. I'm looking at these top laners and hoping that they're going to be able to provide some insight to me as well. As Phenom is going for these early game trades, and Shocky with Q3 ready needs to be proactive in his response.
Well, I will say, Rude, you hitting plat on your off roll is better than I have ever did on any roll. So you have an advantage.
Your top
there.
lane on Caster Showdown was incredible, by the way. Your set is scary.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know Hawk has some words about that as well, as he was getting heavily punished by me in that late stage of the game. He just typed a sad face emoji in our little live chat going on right now. Fnatic and Kizno going at it a little bit as the Viego wants to try and find an opportunity. It will actually be the buff secured by the by the native gaming jungler, as there's a pretty successful heist for the former 100 Thieves jungler.
Yeah, and now he should just be able to secure this crab, head back towards the bot side as well. There was a very hefty chunk onto Kizno, who's been forced back to the fountain. You see Rhino's actually mid lane as well, so Nem9 is being forced out also. Complete control over the early stages of this game for Native. Double crab for Fnatic, steals away one of the buffs as well. Very good start.
Definitely a big advantage. I feel like Fnatic didn't have a super, exciting, aggressive early game, as we typically can see out of Fan, in some of these amateur games. But was still a pretty big factor, especially that giant Jax E that he stole away in the middle of a big team fight in that game 1. I guess we don't really have a replay or anything of it, but it was. I just remember that specifically as being the moment from Fan. So still able to pick up big plays in the late game, but again, his team was down about 3 or 4K by the 10-minute mark or so. So maybe trying to find another opportunity early is going to help. The steal is a good first step.
We got to get a little check-in on the mid lane. Messages is fairly low on mana right now, has enough mana to combo once more probably, but Nem9 with this amount of HP, probably going to be okay to stay in this laning phase. Not, one of the misconceptions you can find is actually that he's fairly low on HP. The amount of HP that he needs to survive in this lane, less than what he has at the minute. So Messages uses the last of his mana, gets actually forced to flash in that mid lane as there's a gank gone down from Kizno. No summoners burned by CB, so that's a really big advantage going their way. Shocky, again, forcing out on this top side. So laning advantages going backwards and forwards, but Messages with no mana now locked in mid, really, because because Nem9 should be able to force this push on any given instance. It's up to Nem9 to decide when he wants to base, and it looks like they're going to be just now handshake a recall and give Nem9 just a bit of a fast recall.
Actually going to stay in lane for just a little bit longer. You see Kizno waiting around the enemy Raptors. Messages still really doesn't have a lot of mana, so maybe could look for, either a really aggressive invade, where you can see up towards the Krugs, or maybe a dive. I don't think the dive is as likely. It looks like Nem9 just going to clear out this last cannon, hits level 6, and we'll be able to go for a nice little base after that.
Yeah, and honestly, I really like just forcing Messages to stay in lane here. When you don't have mana, it's not just a case of not being able to trade. It also makes it a little more difficult to CS under the turret. If you don't have your spells ready, it can be quite difficult to function with just those 0 auto attacks. So the more that you can force Messages to stay in lane is the longer that you can force him to potentially miss a couple of farm. And then if you do, like you say, get into any skirmishes, it gives Kizno a little bit of time to wander around the map and have a good time. Saying the fact that Kizno got stole away a red buff, blue buff early on, it's a decent advantage to have in the mid lane.
Yeah, was able to pick up those Berserker Greaves as well, which is honestly a really big spike on Yasuo and on Yon. So Nem9 will definitely be very happy. Probably have priority around this mid lane for at least a little bit while. We'll see if that lost chapter out of Nemesis will be able to get any sort of advantage, but Actually, it does seem like the dragon is being taken by Native right now. So despite the prio mid, it actually is the bot lane getting the early upper hand on the objective.
No reverse sweep for Native this game. They've secured themselves the first one off the rip, and that's the power, really, I feel like, of the Varus. It does give you a lot more early game lane control. Opted again. Oh, top lane.
Wow, ulti's traded already. Shocky gonna go for the kill. First blood over to the young top laner for Native.
Wow, okay, Shocky coming out huge in game number 2. Not happy with the slapdown that happened in game number 1, and reasserts himself in this top lane. Phenom with no TP. This is a purely 1v1 laning advantage that has gone this way. A massive wave missed under the turret as well for Phenom. It's going to be a couple of plates that go Shocky's way as well. This is a massive advantage for the Native top laner.
Look at all these minions. Oh, it's so sad. Oh my goodness. He might lose the plate, which is maybe a small respite for Phenom X and the rest of CB Gaming, but that is so much experience, so much gold that Phenom lost, not only due to the solo kill, but all those minions as well.
Yeah, really happy for Shocky to be able to find that solo kill, something we didn't get to see in game number 1. But here in game number 2, not messing about. And already, right, their first issue came at that Drake take. Native have already offset that. They went for a Drake, they got it for free.
Yeah, now they're going for an engage here onto Scoop. The satchel charge sends Rhino back, but scooped forward. The Chain of Corruption does land, but Sandwich is flashing forward. No, he stuns a minion with Shield of Daybreak. I don't know if that's enough to finish off the kill anymore. Kizno now has to run for the hills, and Native get out scot-free.
Yeah, a couple communication errors, misplays there. I think they should have been able to take down Scooped, but topside Phenom, he should be fine. Counter-Strike takes him far enough away to safety. I really think the Scoop should have fallen there. Again, Kizno had got Ghost burning. Sandwich flashes forward to try and find the stun on Scoop, but a good match of Flash, an unfortunate misclick as well, does lead Native to be able to escape. A lot of summoners burned. They can potentially revisit that lane, though, when Leona does ding level 6. It means that Sandwich can engage from the entire screen, really, of Scooped. And if you do pull your jungle back down once more, going to be a big concern for Native if we see that eventuality come to pass. Rift Herald has been started, though. Fnatic is already on this, but the bot lane for CB, they're here. They want to contest this. 5 versus 5, it looks like, as Scooped walks through mid lane toward the river.
Very different game than game number 1, where we were just happy to trade the objectives back and forth. The stun on top of the bomb is a big amount of damage as Messages and Rhino are both chunked about half HP. The Rift Heralds will get reset, but Native still have priority around the area. Scoop has arrived. It's going to be a full-out 5v5, I think, for this objective. Shocky will go forward with the Q3, not land a single knock-up. The Rift Herald will be secured by Native. Fnatic picks it up, but now can CB Gaming win a fight? N9 coming in with a Fate Seal. The shuffle away to try and keep them alive. It is a bloodbath in the Baron Pit, and right now 2 have fallen for each side. Phenom X has to run away. Scoops with 1 more auto will finish off the kill. The red buff is ticking, but not ticking enough, but the piercing arrow will shut him down. A double kill onto Scoop. It's a 3 for 2 for Native.
Yeah, damage not quite there this time for CB. Ziggs and Yone, not the early game carries you want in a big 5v5 like that. Varus, however, vastly to the contrary. Scoops goes back to base. He's got this components, really, of the Immortal Shield Bow, and he's actually fairly strong relative to the rest of the squad. He does fall as N9 pulls out a rabbit from the hat once again to secure another kill onto Scooped. Goes back, buys that Immortal Shield Bow. He's going to need that for some future skirmishes against this Yone, because N9 with 2 kills and the assist, he's going to be very scary.
I think that's what Alk Battery called yesterday an 80 carry moment.
True.
Scoop there just wasn't able to do much. Yon pressed E, and that's kind of that. So I think Scoop played a pretty big factor in that fight around the Rift Herald, but this, I guess, still falling to the hands of N9.
And this is my favorite sort of talking point for Yones, I suppose. Is that this build path, this sort of early game spike for a Yone, Vampiric Scepter plus Berserker Greaves, is unmatched. For any sum of 2,000 gold, no champion gets better value out of items than a Yone or a Yasuo with these 2 items.
It's going to be pretty powerful here in this mid game, right? And see Fnatic with the Rift Herald, maybe trying to issue some pressure in onto the Yone. I do have a question, actually. Does the IE changes mean that Yone can just buy IE first item and get the procs?
They shouldn't, but it does. They are allowed to do that, but you shouldn't really ever do that, because IE just flat is not bad. It just, you don't have attack speed, right?
But like,
so
Bork IE is now a possibility, though.
Yes, that's true.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. I mean, then 9 could be on your wavelength. He's got the Vamp Scepter already.
Oh.
Testing.
That was...
Tester ulti. Yep, the button works. No worries.
That was like a, hey, how you doing? All right, goodbye. kind of thing. He doesn't have the Messer Riz, you know what I'm saying?
True.
Dragon started up. Native gonna try to make it a 2-0 count for themselves.
I mean, not having Fate Sealed is actually a big tool here, so...
Yeah, I think it's basically objective going over.
And a little bit of a divergence from Shocky as well, not in that top lane, just hovering his squad in the top side of mid lane, making sure that were anything to happen, that he would be there and that could help out. Fortunately enough for Native, no contest comes through, no plates lost on the top side for Shocky either, who's 2 levels ahead over Phenom. Level 10 versus level 8, this side lane is completely dominated by the Native top laner. That early solo kill, I can't emphasize this enough. Levels are so important to duels, and if you're down 2 levels, it's 1,000 gold in base statistics. You don't want to be battling with that much of a deficit.
Looking pretty good for Native right now. Of course, Scooped is probably where a lot of the damage will lie, at least for the time being. Still have Fnatic with that Rift Herald, has about a, oh, wait, no, he did place it. What am I saying? Right? Okay, ignore me. He dropped it mid. Took some gold.
It's all good.
I'm out of whack.
Happens, okay?
It's a new year. I'm still getting used to everything.
That's completely understandable, Grapes, because honestly, I was not getting... I got to get used to speaking like a human being again, as you may have gathered by how long it took me to actually start that sentence. We're all going to have these teething problems, and it's absolutely fine. In the mid lane, we do have a little trade. I think they're going to be fine.
Wow, Nem9 doing a lot of damage, though. The pullback on the E actually... a little bit, always that little added extra value that you might not expect out of the Yone. So it might look like an even trade, but if it's an even trade with the E, Yone is winning.
It's so annoying as messages as well, because you're like, oh, can I ult him under my turret? Look, he's going to snap back now.
Oh, yeah, just literally unable to do anything, yeah. And now he has ult for the next wave as well, so it might actually be a pretty good angle. That's just at the back.
Beautiful stuff from Nem9. Had the counter pick in the mid lane, is really making the most of it. Yep, goodbye. Oh, shield actually saves. Really nice. So the E shield there, not a commonly thought of factor of Azir, but if you do shuffle to one of your soldiers, or if you shuffle anywhere for that fact, you do get a shield. And that was actually enough to stop the ignite from Sandwich taking him down. Does, however, mean that there's a large wave under the turret that is not going to be collected by Native. I think it's actually just 3 minions. Large was an overstatement. But either way, because Scoops gets pulled into mid lane, it means that there's a wave missed in the bot lane. And all of these little advantages picked up by Nem9 have a cascading effect and end up, reaping some rewards for Native.
Yeah,
no,
Native was
the other one.
CV. They both have gaming at the end, which is a little bit confusing. Native was up about 2,000 or 3,000 gold at some point, I feel like, and I feel like with some of these extra changes, CB have been able to claw their way back in a little bit. They're going to look to try to make an effort here on the Phenom X. Will get stunned by the concussive blows. Very easy kill in the 4v1. We'll see what CB is able to do on the other side of the map.
Hopefully take a turret for themselves. They are funneling into Shocky, and I really like that style. Yeah, you're right. Ziggs, as a champion, takes turrets incredibly quickly between short fuse passive plus W. You have to take the turret down to 25% HP, and that scales with level as well, which is kind of crazy. If you put 5 points into W, the percentage threshold actually goes down. But you just spam your spells on nothing if you need to, right? You can see short fuse passive, the passive from Ziggs works on turrets, so you can take that down as well. There's actually 2 turrets in the top lane for Native, so a really good boost of gold that we were talking about they just stagnated on. They were so fast to this top lane play that they were able to turn it into 2 turrets top and a turret mid lane, while we saw CB get 1 turret on the bot side. This is such a huge macro move that has just netted Natives a huge stockpile of gold, 1,300 gold across everybody in their carry roles.
So I guess a caster curse. I said, CB finding way back, and all of a sudden needs about 3,500 gold again.
Caster blessing.
Caster blessing. It depends on what side you're looking at it. If you're a CB fan, it's not looking as favorably here. Gold looking pretty good for them now. Of course, Shocky actually in a really good position if you look at just the itemization differences between him and Phenom X. Going to be very, very good, especially considering a very AD heavy top side of the map. If Shocky gets just stuck in a side lane, I think that he's going to be okay with just soaking up pressure and trying to continue to go pushes and demolish procs.
Should be good. Yeah, I'd imagine so. The vast quantity of physical damage that's coming out of the CB top side should net him an advantage there. You know, worth mentioning, we talked about the magic damage components of CB gaming. Obviously, the Ziggs. But if we do see that topside excursion come through, you're looking at passive damage or passive procs from the Jax off of the ulti as well and the W. And then you've also got Yone has every second auto attack just deals half magic damage, which is, you know, pretty cool if you're auto attacking quite frequently. Not going to be enough to cut through Shocky though. He's a lot of HP and a lot of armor to offset all of the other damage that is coming through. CB Gaming setting up around this Drake. We've got it just now spawned. And then 9 dashed forward. Thought he might have gone for an engage. Didn't. But they're stopping the Drake stacking now. Unfortunately, it's a Chemtech ult. So Native not too fussed.
Not the Ocean Soul that was on CB Gaming's composition last time around. It looks like Native again is just happy with trading gold for the objective going down. Shocky actually is around the area to maybe just threaten a potential steal, but when Kisno has Smite, not going to be the case. It's just, that was cool.
Ooh.
I forgot that the auto will actually hit the eye on the Q though.
A little bit nasty there from them. Yeah. Honestly, that charge should have gone off, but
those are the mechanics you don't think about if you're not like a really good Yone player, I guess.
This is true. Really good stuff. And may not prove to be too impactful. Normally when you're hitting onto turrets in mid lane like that, it's because you've made a broader choice and you're going to get that turret anyway. But it's good to see that that's going to have a little bit of extra health right now. Phenom the target for Native, but there are not a lot of supporting actors here to help them out of that courteous situation.
This is going to be a big fight between the two turrets. The Glacial Fissure comes out. Kisno just gets deleted by Scoop. A big Solar Flare combined with the bomb is good, but Native is just 5 stacked underneath the tower that is still standing for CB Gaming. It's going to get them 2 kills and another big wave crashing down bottom.
Yeah, we don't want to let Varus free hit anybody. That is not a good way to start winning out League of Legends games. And Sandwich and Kisno found that one out the hard way. Demonic Embrace Rush, he has got 0 resistances to the Varus. And, you know, Kisno does get rightfully melted under the damage coming out of Scooped. Hasn't even completed that second item yet, but still very much online. 5-1 and 1, 161 CS. In a very good position to control this game. Native didn't even take the turret. They didn't really feel like it. They managed to get themselves a couple of kills, a little extra gold in their back pockets, go back to base and spend it up.
We just like, we want to kill you for fun kind of thing, I guess. I mean,
the NA
get
way.
Scoop some gold, but no other pressure. I guess the wave kind of all dissipated at the tower and they had to wait for a new one to come down, and so they decided it wasn't worth the time, instead trying to set up around the top side.
Sure, Grapes, you don't need to justify this. They killed people. They had fun.
Column's in chat. I have to defend him, of course. CB Gaming maybe have to look for a bit of a comeback here. They're down 6,000 gold. Of course, Baron maybe an option for Native. I don't know if the lead is enough to just try to force this with 10 people up.
It's not, because you know, if gold offsets weren't enough, there's still a Ziggs on the enemy team. So Last Dance is just the most obnoxious person to try and take Drake against or Baron against this game. He may well be down 3,000 gold in his roll-to-roll perspective, but Ziggs still hurts. He's got Leandri's finished. He's going to be working towards that completed Seraphs very soon. Already, you know, 80% of the way there. Looking at getting a Kindle Gem and then finishing off the item isn't too expensive or far removed. Tier already completely stacked as well. So that's going to be online as and when we see the gold finished up. Sandwich is in a fairly compromised position here.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit scary. Nem9 is going to try to help his buddy on out of there. Gets them rooted there by the Chain of Corruption, though. Messages will have the ulti canceled by the drag back, but it will still be the first kill forward. Fnatic is going to use the Zenith Blade on the stolen Leona body, dashing forward with the Heartbreaker onto Kisno, and 2 quick kills once again picked up for Native. Shocky still chasing M9. The Q3 forces the ulti out, and that will be just enough for Native to head their way over to the Baron pit.
Yeah, I think with no Fate Seal, you actually can now. Last Dance, yes, he's got Mega Inferno Bomb, but that's not enough to take everybody away from Native. Scoops has got a decent amount of lifesteal still. Maybe able to pick up Rhino, but I don't think they're going to be able to get past Shocky to even get to the pit to try and contest. Shocky in one lane, Messages in the other, and then you just leave your core 3 to move about, take this Baron. Mega Inferno Bomb does come down, but it's way too late.
I was, again, you were literally talking about it 2 minutes ago. I completely forgot that that was a possibility, and I would have been very surprised if that ended up getting stolen away. I might not even have recognized it, but thankfully, that's not the case. Native is able to secure the objective. and probably going to be forcing ourselves to a game 3 here, Reed.
Lovely. More content, more League of Legends, and more tape, more for us to digest, more for us to get familiar with these two teams. Remember, this is the first tournament for any of these players in 2023, and anything that they can do to get just a little bit more practice, a little bit more confidence in competitive games is obviously going to be very, very strong for them. And CB Gaming coming out already having won game number 1, going to put a, you know, if there wasn't already a big enough marker on their back for taking out TFT in the OQs, for taking out the ISU that you've mentioned as well. They've already put up so many wins against formidable teams. People need to respect them, and this win here is going to compound that theory.
Just one win, though. You need 2 to finish off the series, make your way over to the upper bracket. Native making sure that that game 2 is not right now. They're cracking up in the base with the Baron buff in tow. 4 members in onto the bot lane inhibitor. You see messages still wailing away around the tier 2. And CB looking for maybe a potential defense. Sandwich does have the ulti available, but is not going to look for a play.
Yeah, I mean, they're so far behind that opting for these fights is still difficult. I think that they needed to go for that, though, I will say. You had got Leona up ready, and it was like a small window of a 4v5. I think you just need to fish. You need to use one Leona ulti to burn Scooped Cleanse. You can then use another one to either force flash or force an engage.
Ooh. Because
once you've got that those summoner spells up, Scooped is completely free. There is no engage tool for you. You know, you've got Phenom needing to potentially find a flank angle. Nem9 try and find a way to get into the backline with Fate Sealed. There are all these engage tools ready for CB. And the fact that Native are stepping up and taking inhibitors so early into the game speaks to the detriment that CB have got to battle against.
Yeah, I don't really see an angle. I mean, Nem9 can still do Nem9 things. Does have the IE now, so a lot of damage. And of course, Last Dance now is 2 completed items as well. But the lead is just so big. I mean, nobody has been able to touch Scoop in some of these late game fights, and that was a big difference maker last time around. But the composition for Native this time works much better in keeping that high damage threat alive.
Baron already pretty much elapsed. They were able to take the bot lane inhibitor and head up towards this top side. Classic, just common sense League of Legends here. You get the inhibitor down in one lane, you go to the opposite side of the map, try and force a bit of pressure over there. Gonna get this to about half HP. Baron wears off right now.
Oh, wow. We are going in. Sandwich with a huge ulti. Nem9 with the Fate Sealed. Actually, could be a big fight for Native. Phenom X dashes forward to 1-for-1 with messages down, though. Scoop getting chased down. Here comes Phenom X, and the shutdown goes the way of Kisno. Fnatic finds 1 reset, though, but no big damage dealers are alive for Native. Shocky has the all out. How much damage can Nem9 do? Phenom X is massive on the front line. Gets 1 kill in a second as well. CB Gaming
Shocky
might be able to find a fight, but Shocky is still alive. He pops the Q3, but will be taken out. A shutdown to Last Dance, and the ace comes through.
Base held. CB Gaming not out yet. They are still fighting with every breath. They've got a whole game as a cushion, but they don't want to send it that far. They want 2-0, stake their claim on this tournament and put themselves in a great position. Going to clear out this bot wave now, and with that kill, that fight, that ace going their way, it's a massive reprieve, a big weight off their shoulders. If Native would have won that fight, they may well have pushed through for the game, but CB push back. They get themselves a little bit more gold in their back pockets. A lot of shutdowns going into valuable hands there. Phenom in particular got a double kill and really made a bit of a splash. Going to spend a lot of gold.
You see Last Dance just walked into base, bought 2 large rods out of pocket. No debt, no getting a loan from the bank or anything. That is just 2,500 gold worth of items.
Went to the store, knew exactly what he wanted, and left in a second.
Gonna be actually a big spike if that death cap comes through for Last Dance. Of course, Native were pushing a little bit. The Baron buff expired, and CB found a really good angle, but a lot of gold has been funneled with these inhibitors going down, and actually CB Gaming are the ones pushing forward now with Kisno basically soaking up as much damage as he wants.
Radiant Virtue once again in tow, this time with the and with the Demonic Embrace. Of course, doesn't function every time Radiant presses ult.
We're maybe finding another fight. Fnatic is going to get caught out here with the TP coming in from Nem9. The Fate Sealed does get stopwatched away from, and now maybe the cooldowns are in favor of Native. Scoop, though, is in the middle of the enemy team. He doesn't have any way out and will be taken out by Kisno. Nem9 still alive. A huge Q3 is massive for the team. But Shockey's out. Now, Last Dance maybe taking a big damage threat here. Now, Shockey maybe taking low as well. Phenom X and Kisno, they still do so much damage, and Last Dance was unstoppable on the Ziggs with Shockey going down. 2 straight team fight wins for CB.
Phenom is an absolute menace in these team fights, dashing onto the important carries at every given opportunity. Messages has going to have to do some fancy footwork to try and get out of here. But CB, they've got him in their sights. They've held their base once. Now they've held off of the Baron. Kisno's here, though.
A lot of trouble. He has to dash forward, but right into the arms of Kisno. The Surima Shuffle does come out. The last bomb not going to connect. Does it an Amana kill him? No, it does not. Messages will live.
Sandwich, though.
Yeah, he's on the wrong side of the map. I kind of just forgot about that. Zenith Blade comes out. That's a kill.
Yeah. They need to be careful here, CB. Their base is under attack, but Nem9 spawns just in time. Going to be able to ward off those turrets. The delayed death timer for Messages could have been a lot more significant. It doesn't look like CB Gaming are going to be able to push out and take the Baron, which is, 27.5 minutes into a game, a worthy response to taking down the enemy team's mid laner. Looks like Drake, though, in 20 seconds will probably be their prize. With Native on Soul Point, it's a great opportunity to deny that. And CB Gaming, once again here, backs against the wall, come out swinging, and get themselves 2 consecutive fight wins. Messages is still dead. 5 seconds, though, and he's got TP.
Really aggressive TP. Phenom X just continuing to try and find an angle, and they might have actually cut off Shockey. He has to use his dash to try and get away, but now maybe Messages caught out a little bit off of an over-aggressive TP, getting caught out with the Solar Flare, immediately assassinated by Nemesis 9. Fnatic is burning down as well. It is 2 straight kills. CB Gaming, are they going to find the turn again?
Difficult decision now. They need to go for Baron, obviously, to extend the game, but Native are on Soul Point and Drake is up. Resource allocation going to prove to be brutally crucial right now. 3 people are standing mid lane. Kisno is soloing the Baron at the minute as well. They need to make their mind up.
Yeah, maybe CB have to try to opt for one or the other, and now they might be paying the consequences. There's another double kill in for Scoop. I don't really know what CB was doing there in the mid lane. Phenom X gonna go down as well. That is 3 dead at the cost of the soul being denied.
Really difficult decision to make for CB, and they fluff it wholeheartedly. Put 3 people in the mid lane, but not enough members to deal with Scoops. Not the right members either, unfortunately. They do deny Soul, that's great, but they may well end up having to deny a Baron in a 2v5 situation.
Oh wait, Nem9 might be in trouble now as well. Rhino gonna catch him out where the Soul Unbound did, initiate. Looks like Nem9 will be fine. Deep breaths as Fnatic and the rest of Native maybe starting up the Baron. Remember, they still have a huge amount of control in this game. The inhibitor was taken down in the bottom lane. The gold lead still very much in their favor. And with the resets coming through and Nem9 really without a place to go, it will still be the objective going down.
Despite these falters in the mid game, I think that with that Baron, control rested back for Native here. The question becomes, what can they get with these items, with this gold and now the Baron that they've got at their back? CB did TP Last Dance down to the bot side, secured him another 600 gold off of that turret's tier 2 breaking, so really good gold injection for him. The Rabadon's death cap finished and a stopwatch in the inventory as well, exceedingly safe between the stopwatch and the Seraph, which has of course got that lifeline passive now. Physical damage shield that enables Ziggs to be a little bit more tanky, a little bit more durable in these team fights. And obviously when there's a Baron at the back, Ziggs' wave clear probably still the best for dealing with Baron minions, but significantly worse.
This is quickly becoming the best series of the week. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the other ones. I know Horizon did take a 2-0 over ISU, so probably not that one. But these teams have been going blow for blow with one another. It seems CB not very happy about the shellacking they took in the open qualifier. And they want to make sure that they are known as a presence to be watched in the rest of the NACLQ.
Have to hold off this defense. Native summon the Sun Disc in the mid lane, posturing aggressively outside of CB Gaming's base, with Shockey down on that bot side, looking to push in as well. I don't know that anybody's going to look to match that. And Native, in fact, with this big wave, they should just be able to take this. It's on CB to force a fight.
Yeah, Shockey has to be a little bit careful, but still has a whole lot of durability and escape potential there. The inhibitor's about half HP. Scoop Probably has enough distance to just finish this one off, but has to be careful. Nem9 does land the knockup. Oh no, this Varus is in a lot of trouble once again. He's able to flash out, and the Immortal Shield Bow will be able to keep him up alive. Phenom dashing forward, has the dash and the dodge, but unable to take down Scoop. Scoop is still alive. Phenom has to go golden, and a double kill comes in for the Varus. And on the backside, it is all messages, it is all Fnatic, and it is all Native. Last dance, the last survivor, and I think that he's going to be going for one more tango as the game 3 is in our sights.
Scooped and Shocky eat everything and still survive. Game number 3 on the cards. Grapes Native secure the win.
It got a bit dicey here and there, Rude. I'll be the first to tell you that. The amount of lockdown that CB Gaming had to try and get on Scoop was big. Guess not big enough. Scoop showed up huge in that last fight. Rhino doing a really good job to protect him. And at the end of the day, we are headed to a game 3 once again on the Salty Runback stream.
I just can't believe Scoop stayed alive in that last fight. I mean, we were watching him the whole time. It was Nem9 running him down, but Rhino had an amazing Braum shield to keep him alive and then kept kiting. I gotta be honest, for my own dignity, I'm pretty happy that Native Gaming won that game.
It was still close.
Yeah, it was maybe closer than we bargained for.
They have not fallen off just yet, I don't think.
The advantage of hosting is I get to live tweet the games for Salty Runback and my own Twitter, so that's all I've been doing. Tweeting the clip like, CB Gaming kind of fighting back in game 2, but fortunately for my dignity, it's at least going to be a 3-game series, and fortunately for the viewers, because this has been, I'm gonna say the caster word.
Oh no,
it's been a banger of a series, y'all. It's been excellent, but Native Gaming closes it out. Grapes, I'll go to you first. I want to give you guys a break before we go into the next game, but quick thoughts on that last game.
Native played good, I think, for the most part. I like the compositions worked a little bit better. I think the Braum for Rhino, I think, was actually really huge for both keeping Scooped alive as well as, you know, putting Scooped on a bit of a better carry threat that is not super vulnerable to the likes of the composition. And you saw that right there in that last fight. Even though CB this time around had more tools to try to kill Scooped, the tools that Native had to protect Scoop were a lot better this time around.
Rude.
I'll agree with that. I think that Scoop's using all of the cooldowns as appropriate. It's kind of what led that to be a one fight for Native. Yes, we got to see Fnatic go huge in the Viego and constantly get resets, causing chaos as well. But there were just not enough tools to take down Scooped. And with that Varus staying alive, it meant that wasn't that crucial team fight presence that was missing from Native.
Yeah, if Scoop gets one shot in that fight, like that definitely goes differently. That game is still happening right now at the very least. So props to Scoop for staying alive. Props to Native for keeping Scooped alive. My first ban in Grapes and Ice draft, getting rid of Scooped as the best ADC, looking pretty damn good right now because Scooped is looking pretty damn good. We're going to have to do a quick break so I can give the casters a break, but we'll be back in a few minutes to get into game number 3. See you there. Welcome back, everybody. I told you it'd be a quick break. We were able to get Rude some food and water. That's what we really needed. Some
Yeah.
sustenance for the cast. Y'all, this series has been quite a bit more exciting than I think any of us bargained for. I know than Rude and I bargained for. We talked about that earlier. And now we have a game 3. It's not an elimination match, so both these teams will still be in it, regardless of how this one goes. But this really can set the tone for the rest of your tournament if you're able to come out with either the expected win for Native or the big time upset for CB. So before we get into game number 3, we got drafted in just a sec, but Rude, I want you to hit me with like game 3. What are we looking at here? What do
More
we
of
want
the
to see out of these teams?
same. We
More of the
want to
same?
see more
I
of
want
the
more, yeah.
same. Incredible games, trials, tribulations, upsets, glory. Everybody has had standout moments so far, honestly. Like, I could look back at all of the players on both of the teams and be like, damn, you did a good thing right there. I'm hoping for just that from everybody once again. Like, both of these teams put their heart and soul into this series already. It is round 1 of the group stage, and we couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, fair enough. I will take some damn moments again. I like those. We all like the damn moments. Let's see some damn moments. We got draft queued up and ready. Grapes and Rude, take it away.
Thank you, Hawk. It is back to us too, Rooted, for the last game of this series. I think one thing I really want to see as we head into the draft is finding a way to kill these damn 80 carries. I feel like they've been taking over these
No!
matchups, and it is
Please!
they just don't die.
Grapes, you're going to convince people that this role is overpowered, and
It's
then
it's
and
so
I can't
OP.
handle that.
Nerf ADC.
Now, of course, ADC's in a good spot right now. I'm quite happy with it. We've seen Scooped have pretty good times with it, and we've seen Last Dance. Honestly, I mean, we've seen Last Dance play Ziggs, so not
And that
necessarily the
Varus
worst,
game
and the
too.
Varus as
Pretty
well.
crazy.
So I think the motto here is pick Varus, win game. Native have got blue side. We'll see if they can utilize that philosophy quite
Are
fully.
they gonna do it?
That's good. Udia ban good. We like it.
Okay, Varus is still up though, so
Mm.
that was not one of the ones that was an option, and we're gonna see Scoop lock it in, just nice.
My
and easy.
goat, Taki.
Yeah.
Takimon, the coach for Native, knows what he's doing.
See what this response for CB is on the other side though, because you know they've tried a couple of different things. Of course, they had the Varus in game number 1. They had the Ziggs comp with the Leona in game number 2. I wasn't as excited about the Leona as I was necessarily with the Ziggs, but I understand trying to find some lockdown CC. We'll see if that ends up happening this time around. The Ashe has been locked in for CB. It's been something that has not been played across the series so far. And again, it still remains that flex pick. We're not sure if it's going to be as an AD carry or as a support.
Been teased once, I believe, by CB on blue side last game. But for Native, going back to the tried and true solo lanes, it's worth mentioning that CB did take away the Viego, the pick that Fnatic has played twice so far this series already. Still have champs like Wukong, that is, I think, the expected trade to come through. Does very well versus the likes of an Ashe if this happens to go into a supportive role or a carry role, because you can block bullets with clone, and you can block arrows with clone as well. So hopefully we get to see some decent enough Wukong gameplay. That's why I expect to see either banned honestly by CB or picked up by Fnatic when possible. We got the Jhin Ashe bot lane coming through. Both of these champions can play support or carry. We just kind of have to wait and see which one's going to be which. My expectation is that we get to see Jhin at that bot lane carry role, but it really could be either. And for these carries, I'm thinking mainly messages and Scooped. Cleanse is a must. That's just a given. And messages here, I think if you're going for TP, which is the mid lane standard, you're going to have to play incredibly disciplined when looking at this mid game.
Yeah, there is a lot of CC available in that bot lane for the side of Last Dance
Wukong ban good.
Sandwich. I'm surprised. Yeah, I think the Wukong and the Jax both make sense because those are the picks that we were looking at. I think the Cassante Jax trade has been something that CB and Native have been able and willing to do. And when you look at the jungle tier list, after that Viego, you're probably looking at the Wukong. Vi might be an option for Fnatic as well now as we're headed into the second phase, especially against some of these squishy long-range bot lane carries. But we're just going to have to see what exactly Fnatic wants to whip out here in the jungle pool.
The good thing for CB here is they get double counter pick. Obviously they're going to get double counter in both solo lanes regardless.
Oh,
Okay, hold, everybody.
Hold
because
on.
we've seen this before already. Grapes is currently doing the research, finishing up his, massive. Okay, This draft just got even better.
Oh, what the?
We got Zach. This is what we were missing from
That
this
wasn't Vi,
jungle
but it's,
tier
yeah.
list. It is in the jungle. It is in his traditional role. I think that this champion is incredibly broken in every role that you can play it. But nevertheless, Zach going into the jungle role with Radiant Virtue, mwah, chef's kiss, a banger jungler, and even banger more so when you're playing it up
Wait,
against.
wait.
No.
Okay,
You're getting
okay.
baited. We don't talk
Yeah,
about hovers. Great.
I'm
Rule
getting
number
baited by.
one.
Yeah, okay.
Don't
That
talk about hovers.
rule number one. I should have realized that. The Zach pick is very exciting. I do want to again go back to this Darius point here.
Okay.
Phenom X whipped it out against Tony Top himself, uh, former Golden Guardians Academy player on the Camille. It was a very, very good pickup
Oh,
for himself there.
wait.
But yes, Rude.
More juice. More
Okay.
juice to the draft. This is a Blitzcrank pick, not a Karma pick. We have been debated by Pro Draft.
So you can't even trust the lock-ins either at this point. You can't
No.
trust anything.
Clearly not. We can trust nothing.
I think Kai's getting a screenshot or something to fix stuff on the stream. The Kassadin would be a really nice lock-in here for CB Gaming. There's a lot of magic damage on the native side, especially if that Varus goes on hit. And just would be a really good way to negate a lot of things. The Darius, again, they won that game against Doyi and Tony Top. And so Phenomax definitely very comfortable on this pick. And there's just a lot of stuff to talk about this draft right now, Rude. I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Okay. You've hit Darius. I'm going to go to Zach, and then I'll try to do Blitzcrank afterwards. Okay. Because honestly, this point ties into both of these two champions. Zach and Blitzcrank are both very good versus the CB bot lane. They're both immobile. They both don't have any real ways of stopping getting engaged on once they've been hit. So if a hook lands, Native are off to a great start. If a Zach finds a connection onto an elastic slingshot or even just a stretching strike, if you can pull the two together, even better. There is so much that warrants bot lane priority from Native and just focus on that I'm genuinely scared for CB because they can get dove on a whim. Zach passive is going to be great for helping them set up dives. Blitzcrank is great for pulling people from the safety of their tier 1 turrets. There's going to be a lot of attention focused toward this bot side. But then the other side of the coin, Grapes, that opens us up to see what Phenom can do on the Darius, because this is a winning matchup in the top lane. You know, I talked about Jax versus Cassante. I'll give you, the 50-50 of who takes that. Darius destroys tanks. He destroys melee tanks even more. Like, the two go hand in hand. This is a huge matchup for Phenom. So, junglers this game, they've got their pick of the litter. Do I defend my losing lane on one side, or do I help the winning one on the other?
Yeah, I definitely top side focus for CB, bot side focus for native is what we are looking at. And we're hoping, of course, that Last Dance and Sandwich can survive on the bot side of the map and Shocky can survive up top. And interestingly enough, again, I think we were talking about this a little bit before the draft of game number 1, but CB, this is the first time that they are whipping out a bot lane like this, the double range, double 80 carry compositions, because of the fact that they were the ones actually running this Blitzcrank into picks, into other teams that were rocking the double range comps, like the Kalista supports, the Caitlyn supports, and things like that. So it's actually a really interesting deviation to see how things work out. And CB is kind of playing against the villain or the monster that they've created themselves.
Some homework feeds in the native gaming camp is what we're saying.
Yeah.
We saw that they did this a couple of times. Let's see if we can pilot it ourselves. And Rhino, clearly, a very well sought after support, has
You
been
can play some Blitzcrank.
playing for long enough. And honestly, every support falls in love with the role because they've played a hook champion for way too long. So Blitzcrank, if that's the hook champion for Rhino, just like another one in the wheelhouse. Once you've played one, you've played them all. You hit the hook or you don't. This champion is so drastic in its power that it has, really, is that if you land that hook, you're just the god hand. If you don't, your champion is pretty useless. There aren't that many shields for CB for the Blitzcrank ult to tear through. So I'm looking at your effectiveness. I'm rolling back down to that hook. And if it lands, Rhino is the savior for native. If not, it's the question mark. Things are going to come out.
Yeah. The thing with the Blitzcrank is, again, it can really just hard win you a fight. but it's a 4v5 otherwise, and I think that's kind of the big
Yeah.
the big thing that
You're
you were
hoping you take
mentioning.
it to a 4v4 with the hook, is
Yeah,
the
you're
thing.
hoping it's a 4v4. Yeah. I think actually also the shield breaking could be actually playing a big role depending on what some of the items these players go. Obviously, the Seraph's Embrace now has the lifeline shield. Rhino can
Mm.
just absolutely destroy that. And if, something like a Maw of Malmortius or a Sterix Gauge is picked up by any of these other AD champions, could also be a really important thing to consider. The Blitzcrank is really just a wild card in the ability to just turn the tables of so many different opportunities.
Yeah, Hawk was talking about I call it the Oriana effect, where just one ult changes the course of the game, right?
Mhm.
Um, that they had for Cosmic Radiance last game on CB. Blitzcrank has that just every 20 seconds, and in the late game, it's every 10 seconds. Just one hook. Again, you alter the course of the game, and you can drastically change how the landscape of a match looks if you do find that one pick onto the 6-item Jin. They're not able to do anything for a team fight. If you find the layering of CC so well onto a Kassadin that he's not able to pop off in a team fight, you're happy enough.
Yeah, and I think the team fights for CB maybe not as strong unless this Cassidy can really pop off here for an M9. I think that in terms of general like front to back 5v5, Native is definitely favored, and CB gonna have to try to find some opportunities, whether it's with the oppressiveness that this bot lane can produce if not getting hit by a hook, or if Phenom can really just flip the script up in the top side and have a really good game against Shocky.
I need to get into this game ASAP. We're still waiting, right? There's still a couple moments before, but this bot lane, for me, I think they're going to be just so crucial, so crucial.
I'm yeah. We'll see what happens. Maybe a level 1 from Native as we get into the game would be something that we
Oh,
could look
Blitzcrank
at.
level
It's
one.
something that
Nobody's
I
ever
feel
seen
like
that
they've
one
been doing
before.
for a while, so maybe an opportunity. Let us know in the chat if you are a Native fan or a CB gamer, because one of these teams is headed up to the upper bracket after this matchup. We're on to the Rift, game number 3, our first series over on Salty Runback.
Both teams need to beeline it with their 5-man. No! CB are doing it. Native, what are you doing?
You have the Blitz
Group! Kill them!
It's a counter effort, I guess, for CB,
Ugh.
because if you get one person gets hooked, like, you want to make sure the rest of the team is also there. I feel like Native, we want to see the blood. We want to see the 5v5. It's not going to happen.
This is such a boring Blitzcrank. I'm fuming right now. Rhino walked up to Tribrush, warded level 1, and then backed away.
It's,
Okay,
yeah.
now, for those at home,
Nice
I have
skin.
to say, this is probably the right thing to do, right? Like, flipping the game level 1 is so boring and a bad way to end a best of 3. But it's so underwhelming for me. And I'm saying this is my own personal grievance, and I'm being selfish about it because I'm sad that Rhino didn't hook somebody at that level 1 and try and, like, just lose the game or win it randomly.
But it would be fun.
You see, you get it. You get it. You understand.
Think about how fun it's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, no flipping. This looks like these teams actually care about winning the game, which is obviously very fair, but it's just a very boring level 1. Fnatic and started Raptors actually all 3 games. Looks like Kisna's going to follow suit this time around. Interesting to see where, again, these junglers decide to focus their attention because of all of the different situations in the split map that
Flip the
can
game.
be here.
Do it.
Okay, we're going to flip the game anyway, it seems. Sandwich taking down Scoop to half HP. Rhino is just waiting to try to hit a hook. He does get it on the last dance, and the 4-shot does connect as well. It looks like the Ignite was the only summoner burned, as we didn't flip the game just yet.
No, there was this really awkward game of chicken being played right there because both teams knew if Blitzcrank pulls into tower, that's your way to win. So Rhino was like walking away, but equally taking a load of damage by walking away, and all sorts of spacing issues coming into play. I think that's overall a win for CB Gaming, and now you're getting to see the real issue of a Blitzcrank. He's got no hook for the last 10 seconds. He's going to have it back up again any moment, so CB need to be a little bit more respectful. But Native, they're missing out on experience whilst all this is going down. Level 2 hit for CB, and they can now start to play very heavily toward this bot side if necessary. We mentioned that this bot lane was going to be so focal as a point of this matchup, but remember, this is all at the cost of top lane. Phenom has got this super winning matchup in the top lane, and Shocky, I'm going to say, it should probably be feeling a little bit more punishment. I'm not sure quite when we're expecting Phenom to come online, but the lack of control from his jungler may be causing him a couple issues.
Yeah, We see Kisno actually tapping away with Fnatic making his way towards the top side of the map. I think level 1 and level 3 are where Darius really is able to have a good power spike. We see once the Apprehend was unlocked, did use it to chunk Shocky down to about a quarter or a third of HP, but has to be careful actually in this lane because Fnatic is ready to go for a gank.
Yeah, so both these junglers sort of pressuring the lanes that they were expecting to have trouble. Kisno is here, and with the amount of range that CB have got, they can tank very easily. Juggling aggro can be crucial.
Yeah, you can't get hooked under tower if you're already under there. First blood picked up for Last Dance. It will be the trade back as Rhino gets one onto Sandwich.
So
but both the damage dealers are still alive, and it's just Rhino here to pick up the remnants of the wave.
CB Gaming going to be more than happy with that. They take down the AD carry, force the cleanse as well, and all they lose is Sandwich, who doesn't even burn flash. More than happy for that to happen with the first blood going specifically onto their ADC as well. Beautiful execution down on the bot side, and it's not matched by anything that Fnatic can pull off in the mid or top lane. Really good to see Kisno skipping 2 camps, making a play, fell on the timer that his bot lane commanded. The wave crashed, the jungler was there, and they got away with it.
And that's how you make the difference in a Blitzcrank lane. You make sure that you don't get hooked, and then you punish it with the extra pushing power that you have. It was a really nice play by Kisno to pass down to the bot side at just the right time. CB Gaming, they do get a massive lead down in there in the bottom lane, and that's going to be important later on.
Swifty Boots rush for Last Dance. Catch me if you can with those hooks.
Yeah.
Hex Flash from Rhino. Not going to go to that mid lane. But I'm quite happy with the build path from Last Dance, it must be said. Heading into this, Fleet Footwork, Swiftness Boot Rush. He's very easily going to be able to try and dodge out on these hooks. Makes this bot lane a lot safer. However, this paints a bigger target on Sandwich's back.
Yep. It's maybe a little scary for the bot lane, of course, especially Fnatic is in the area. Hasn't, again, had the most impactful early game in terms of finding a gank just yet. So we'll have to try and play his cards a little bit better here. Dragon is spawning. It's, again, a Chemtech first on the menu. And we'll see if Native actually want to go for this. They have a nice push up here. Their jungler is first onto the rotation, and actually Fnatic is just jumping in to start this one up.
Ooh, okay. And we've seen Native head toward these Drakes quite frequently. In game number 1, it really set them behind, unfortunately, going for the early objectives at the very least. But they've got control from mid lane, got push from bot lane. Kisno just going to clear up the first set of his blue buff and Gromp spawns to start leveling those on up. So it's a good look for Native. Puts them with a little extra boost to spring to their step. And a Chemtech this game as well. Very useful. Gives you a little bit of tenacity. And obviously up against an Ashe, it's not something we're particularly sad about.
It's very close. I feel like it's super tense right now because the team fights for this game are going to go absolutely ballistic, I feel like. You have a giant Kassadin, if we get to that stage in the game, and just like everybody on Native, it feels like these two teams, they don't want to try to throw the game just yet. They want to really make sure that they are able to find a good opportunity to forward engage. We're going to see it right there. Scooped, picking up a kill onto Sandwich as Kisno arrives a little bit too late.
Yeah, Fnatic, he's just there. That extra body is more than enough to allow CB the kill, essentially. Kisno just a little late to the play means that there's a quick 1 for 0, nothing more to be gained, and Messages knows that he can cheat toward the top side of mid lane and be safe from any jungle interference. He also took the first strike in this lane up against a Kassadin, so levels 1 through 6 should be absolutely bullying out the Kassadin. I think that has been done. You can see 2 Amptomes in the inventory. Fairly decent cash already from a first base from an Azir. Not sure that there's a way for us to actually check how much gold he's already got from it, but either way, you know that melee versus range and an Azir in particular is going to be very well.
Oh, wow, we are 1v1ing up here. I don't know if that's what you wanted to do, Shocky. The bleed is ticking the potions as well, and Shocky barely gets to live there in the 1v1.
My guy's just rolling his face on the 1 through 6 numbers right there. Give me all the cookies, give me all the potions. He manages to survive, and an extra shield from Cassante as well is that difference maker. Really good stuff by Phenom, though, commanding this top lane already. Really in a winning matchup, forcing out those the ulti at the very least defensively. Doesn't actually burn Shocky's ghost, which you could argue something that you would be looking for. But putting Shocky down early on is a completely different matchup. Remember, game number 2 was getting solo killed by Shocky, who was playing the Cassante once again. So the Jack's banned for favor of taking a Darius.
And I feel like it's actually working a little bit better right now in the 1v1. The question is, of course, how good does it do in like the later team fights and things like that, compared to a Jax, which has just been proven to be a really powerful pick in the meta. Ooh, that hook almost maybe set Phenom X back a little bit with that play, but it looks like instead CB Gaming headed over to this Rift Herald. They will be able to secure it and maybe an opportunity to continue to funnel gold up to the top set of the map.
I'd be down for that. I think that Phenom needs to be ahead of the curve. He's going to have a difficult time executing scoops and messages this game if they can't find a Darius with an exceptional lead. You know, range on scoops, range on messages is going to be very high. It's chain of corruption between that and the ulti from the Azir as well. There's a lot of tools to keep this Darius at bay, particularly when you've not gone for the Mercury Treads. You could find yourself being caught up in a whirlwind of CC that the native side can put out. Nevertheless, has got the Ghost to attempt to offset some of those disadvantages we're expecting to come his way. And if you just get that extra bit of gold, a potential stride breaker in the inventory as well might go a long way to keeping that sticking power nice and high.
It's just like you know, you say all of that, but it's still just kind of a weird champion to operate in a competitive environment. It kind of just wants to be on its own, similar to Alawi, but the team fights can be good, but it'll be interesting to see if Phenom X is able to pull it off. Because if you go back to the last game that he did play on this Darius, he had like he won the game, but the scoreline, he ended like 2-3-5. So it wasn't a super like dominant game in any sense. It would be interesting to go back and see how the lane actually ended up working out, but it seems like other areas of CB was where you know, the team ended up actually succeeding.
And with you know, the pressure at the very least from the top lane being asserted by Phenom, it's good to see that you can leave the Darius to be a weak side and then still have successes elsewhere. Use Kisno to become a powerful force. You know, so a player that I highlighted coming into this series is one of the driving forces behind CB's successes thus far. Game number 2, at the very least, didn't particularly have that same impact, but drew a ban in game number 3 with the Udyr, proving that there's a little bit more in the tank for this player specifically. And if you're drawing Udyr bans, you've already drawn a Kindred ban every game. Where does the limit stop? You know, how many champions do you have to ban away from Kisno before you can start to actually think about a League of Legends draft? It's all of these small little mind games that are going very well.
There's always, of course, the NEM9 wild card you got to throw in there as well. Kisno has and also just really been fine with the Viego or the Wukong. Almost finding a pick there onto messages. Just leave me alone, guys. Is that what the white flag emote means? It's like, hey guys, like please.
I mean, in wider society, it's like surrendering, right? You wave the white flag to surrender. I don't know if there's a hidden context that these guys have got. I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
pretend
like, I don't know if he's not necessarily surrendering. He's just kind of like, hey, like I guess he is surrendering.
Maybe he's telling them to surrender.
Leave me alone. Yeah.
That's probably more likely.
Okay,
we have got a Drake though, Grapes. Native have started this one. Would be 2-0.
Oh, the hook lands in onto Kisno. The Viego is instantly taken out, and that is just an easy dragon secure for Native. They're up 2-0.
Yeah, a little bit of disrespect there from Kisno. You've got flash, you've got ult, you've got to use one of those to get away. You cannot get hit by that hook. As soon as you see that Scoop's there, you can, you know, argue that there's not enough damage between the Zac and the Blitzcrank. Flash forced. Great trade there. But that's once again another advantage to Native. It's a trade that you'll take. You take the flash off of your Blitzcrank, who's got a Hex flash up after 15 seconds, over Last Dance, who's going to have to wait another 5 minutes before their flash is ready.
NEM9 is getting very strong on this Casterden. Really not taking a whole lot of punish. Actually up in levels right now. I wonder if he gets the Roa off of this first stack. I don't think so necessarily. I know that CB actually have to work on the other side here. Rhino has no mana and has to try and get away. The flash forward to just continue the chase out of Sandwich. The 4-shot lands, but Kisno gets the final blow.
Really like that from Sandwich, actually. Just flash onto the Blitzcrank. You know that there's no Summoner Spell trade there and ready. And you can't Hex Flash while you're in combat. So you get a nice slowdown on the Blitzcrank. Can never get away. And a chase down successful for CB. They're going to translate this into more than just a kill once again. 2 plates goes down. Fnatic is here to stop it from being a third. So overall, not the worst case situation for Native. They could have lost a little bit more, but CB certainly finding a strong advantage. And to answer your question, Grapes, it is that Rod of Ages. So mark your clocks, everybody. 12.5 minutes into this game, then 9 picks up that Rod of Ages. When we hit that 22-minute marker, that's a free level for the Casterden and 1 step closer to that pivotal 16.
I feel like the level up normally gets champions to like 13 or to level 14 or 15. Not necessarily 16. but one step closer is definitely just as important, obviously.
And
And so
I was curious as well. So there was like a small part of me that thought, does it just tick you up to the next level, or does it give you experience based on your level? And it's actually the latter. So for example,
Right.
if you're level 12 and you're 1 experience from level 13, it doesn't give you 1 experience. It gives you a good chunk into the next level as well. So it's, again, like nobody was arguing this, but a really efficient item to be getting level 16 quickly on.
see how much that ends up getting stacked, but instead CB, in the meantime, gonna look for players on the top side of the map. Phenom X landing in that guillotine already. Shocky goes all out, has a ton of dashes to get himself on out of there.
Yeah, which one of Cassante's dashes did he use there? Was it
all of them? I think the
yes,
answer is
okay.
yes, yeah. It's Cassante things.
Anyway, all the commitment on the top side from CB allowed Native to actually respond in the bot lane. Scooped may have been under a little bit of early game fire from this Ashe and Jhin, but feels now very comfortable with their position in the game. Able to take down that tier 1 turret and all 5 plates in conjunction with moving into the mid lane now, not to take down the turret, but to at least put a little bit of damage on it. And again, this is a rotation on the map that is netting CB a big advantage. They take 1 turret, they move into the mid lane, they try and take down another. It's all really good movements that Native have got, and like that confidence. Okay, the experience that they're going to have from having played the game competitively more often than their opponents.
I mean, you look at all of the players on this team. Shocky maybe the one exception as the new face to this roster, but I mean, all these 4 players have played in a Proving Grounds circuit qualifier in the past 2 years. Rhino, of course, took a year off last season, but has been around for a long time. But Scoop Fnatic, top of the table, Messages really emerging as a star of 2023 potentially in NACLQ. I mean, when you look at the roster top to bottom, there's a reason they're seeded very heavily, which makes it even more impressive that CB have been able to make this a really close matchup.
Kisno trying to find any advantage that they can get, stealing away those Krugs, and again, getting a little bit more cash onto the Kassadin. You can sort of almost feel where CB's win condition is going to be later on. Messages is 35-40 CS down in the 1v1 versus the Kassadin, but it's the Kassadin levels, like we always mention, that are going to be those important tools. Rhino's here, I think they're going to get to recall, so it's not a concern. But for Nem9, just getting the gold, getting the items to back up your levels, because so frequently I've seen level 16 Kassadins dash in Zhonyas and then die. Like, it doesn't matter if you're 16 or not sometimes. If you don't have the skill or the items to pilot the champion, you can still falter quite significantly. And with enough CC, and CC that Native have, I will add, the team fights can be difficult for a Kassadin to navigate. Poor Fnatic.
That's unfortunate. Just annoying. I feel like though Nem9's Kassadin definitely is practiced. He did get a ban drawn against him at some point in the open qualifier for it, so I feel like just like the melee champions and Nem9 kind of work well hand in hand. And Kassadin probably just not really an exception there. Rift Herald spawned in the mid lane, and Nem9 and the rest of CB have started up this dragon. Don't want to give up soul point to Fnatic just yet, but he is in the pit. Do they push off the damage? No, they do not. Native secures the Ocean Drake. There are 3-0 in the lead now, but Nem9 is big. He picks up the first kill onto Rhino, and Kisno gets a reset. The hook does not land. The Heartbreaker out is not in time, and Fnatic will pick up another kill for the Native squad. Nem9 has to rift walk out of there, but Messages is here. Phenom X is here as well. Is the healing enough? The guillotine is there, and Phenom X secures the kill on Messages. It is a double kill for Scoop though. The flash forward Fnatic for something, but he cancels all of his CC. It will just be sandwiched as that respite. But now the flash forward from Scoop. It is a quadra kill for the Varus, and Scoop has taken Native over the edge here in game 3.
Okay, outside of the fact that Phenom transformed Darius into a ranged champion, that was a 5-for-0 there for Native. Incredible performance. Once again, they lose out on nobody because Messages lived, and they managed to get the Drake as well. 3-0, punish CB so hard. They thought that they'd got first track on the dragon, they were going to be able to burn it down in time, and they just didn't make it work. If CB get that Drake and get out, it's a massive stall. But the fact that Native secure the dragon and 4 kills for Scooped, they just put themselves in a very strong position. This game had been sort of teetering a little bit, I feel like, Grapes. Nobody particularly commanding respect of the match, but Native, after that fight, thoroughly in control.
It's just been Varus being really strong in all 3 games of this series. Whoever has it just ends up taking over the game. It was Last Dance with 3 early kills in game 1, scooped in both 2 and 3, finding opportunities to really come alive. 2.5 items at 18 minutes into the game. It doesn't matter what level your Kassadin is, Rude. If you have this amount of damage on your AD carry, it is going to be a very tough time for the opposition.
You've clearly not played AD carry enough to know how much casting can do to an ADC. Nevertheless, you are not wrong into, the rest of the team, yes, Kassadin will still deal with Varus very well. Messages now, he's been supported, fans here.
Yep, there comes the arrow. Big shuffle, though, coming out. The Emperor's Divide actually going to keep Messages alive. Fnatic is bouncing around, trying to find any sort of remaining CC as the rest of the team has arrived. Nem9 has to rift walk away. Sandwich will be the sacrifice here, but Native is going to try to look for more. Scoop is godlike on the Varus, and Messages will pick up another. It is another 2 quick kills. Shocky has to dash away and will not die to make it an even trade for CB.
It's so huge for Native once again, and it's not just the wins on the top side, it's the win on the bot side as well. I'll be thinking, Rude, but Shocky, he's 10% HP. That's not a win. It's a win in Native's book, okay? The fact that they're not losing out is all they need from Shocky. Be the weak side king that Native need right now, and that's exactly what we're seeing. 0-0-2, only down 15 CS in this matchup, doing very well and making sure that Phenom isn't getting any more than he should be.
Yeah, and I feel like even though he's been able to, push his advantage a little bit every time he is up against Shocky, we haven't seen that big, opportunity for him to take over a fight or take over a game. I don't think Shocky has been killed. Yeah, is that true? Is that?
Yeah, he hasn't died. 0-0-2. He's chilling.
Oh my god, yeah, you were right. Phenom X did have a kill, but it was against Messages there on the Azirs, right? So it was, yeah, Darius has been able to win lane, but not take over because of it. And I think that's a really big credit to Shocky for being able to play on this weak side so well.
And it was a bit of a factor for Native during their loss against Maryville was in the 4-0-4-0 match, getting caught out in that side lane a couple times too frequently and giving Maryville a lot of space on the map to extend their lead and end up securing the game. It's good to see that there's been that slight level of improvement from Shocky. And yes, he's not been particularly focused by either of these junglers, but not losing out in the 1v1 is exactly what you're looking for in a losing matchup.
The Hex Flash. Every time the Hex Flash comes out, an arrow comes out, the hook comes out, I just hold my breath a little bit like, oh god.
Got to.
Is the game going to flip on its head? Doesn't look like just yet. Dragon is spawning in 40 seconds and Native are on soul point. And so we're going to have to see a little bit of, changing the guard in a way of CB going for a bit of a reverse sweep themselves if they want to keep themselves up in this game.
They don't know that there's vision in that brush right there, and that's like the one thing that CB were kind of holding on to, is that they can find a way into the river through the mid lane if they need it. Unfortunately, Native have got such good control of the rest of the river and the rest of the bot side jungle that it does make it difficult for CB to face check, and face checking a Blitzcrank we know does not go well for teams very frequently. But now Rhino has no hook, doesn't engage.
Oh yeah, getting locked down already. The Deadly Flourish might be a big pick, but here comes Fnatic. He's pretty big here as well and will not die
Rhino lives
whatsoever. Scoop untouched on the backline. Messages dashes forward as well. A clean wipe for Native Gaming as they're just cleaning up scraps here with the bottom lane of CB. Fnatic maybe looking for something with the slinging strikes. They're just going to lock down Sandwich, take it a 4-0, a double kill onto Messages in the Soul Secure.
Yeah, they're going to get everything here. Mid in here, Drake's Soul. This is very good for Natives and honestly could just be the tipping point that they needed. We're still that small part of you in the back of the head that's thinking, oh, level 6 Kassadin, can it do it? Will it win? It's going to be a very hard road ahead for Nem9, and he's going to need a lot of input and support from the team. But Native Gaming right here are putting a stamp on this series. Not yet signed and sealed, but they're pretty much ready to go. It wasn't the mid inhibitor, it was the Baron.
Yeah, Kisno not even looking to try and take this one away. Instead, just going for the red buff. The arrow is going to come out. Oh, man. I feel like Kisno could have made... Actually, no, he doesn't have ult or flash, so it was a bit doomed. Yeah, that's the Baron.
And once again, Native, if that Baron had have gone a slightly different way and CB had have found a contest, we could be staring at a much different situation. But as we are, Native are in a very good position. Now remember everybody at home, Native in game number 1 had an Ocean Soul, had a Baron. Native Gaming also lost game number 1 off the back of one fight. Are the situations the same? Completely different? No, but same. They are not. Because the champions are obviously in much different positions. We're seeing, a Jhin versus a Varus in terms of late game DPS. That's just not comparable. There's obviously a lot of other circumstances that have gone in, but Native have been in this position before. They've lost from this position before. CB Gaming, I think if there's anything that we've learned from this series is that you cannot count them out at any given moment.
I am very close to doing so.
We're close.
I'm really thinking about it. Maybe this is the time to count them out, but it's still level 14. The rod is fully stacked, so that was the level 13 to 14 that NAM9 did end up receiving. He's getting a little bit of extra gold, but it's 3.5 items onto Scoop, and so it's kind of hard. I'm not sure.
Yeah, neither are my grapes. It's hard, but I think it's the only way. It's like you're increasing your chances from 1% to 3%,
Yep, and maybe the percentages will swing one way or another here. Phenom X has to flash away before doing any meaningful sort of damage, and Native will begin the base siege in game number 3. Bot lane inhibitor is down. NAM9 just waiting around, waiting for his opportunity. Is one level away from 16, Ooh! But Rhino might end the game before that with a beautiful hook onto Kisno. NAM9 taken down as well, and that is likely all she wrote. Shocky into the back line. Phenom X is still alive, though, with a double kill onto the Darius. And now the curtain call does come out. It's a 3v3. Messages, Fnatic, and Scoop are going to actually back away. They won't go for the end just yet. Phenom X keeping CB alive for now.
Yeah, they've got a fountain healing up there, so it's not as easy to just brute force end the game. They may look for it here. Fnatic can engage.
He's waiting for it. Is he going to go? First Nexus Tower is down. It is just the threat that is so frightening on this Zac. Messages is taken down pretty low, and I think that is going to just mean that Native is going to back out. Instead, just wait for the next rotation of waves, maybe the next Baron to close the series out.
Yeah, that's the lot for this push here, folks. But Native Gaming, once again, if they weren't in a great position before, in a brilliant position right now. 2 inhibitors down, and again, closeout macro 101 is when you've got 2 inhibitors down, all you need to do is go to the lane with the inhibitor still remaining. The super minions in mid and bot lane will push for you, create that source of pressure, which means CB Gaming are then going to need to stop their super minions from taking the Nexus turret. And when somebody goes to answer those super minions, the amount of dive that Native have got, it will be so easy to force underneath that tier 3 turret. This Zac is far too tanky for anybody on CB to deal with right now. He's got 0 MR, but if my Kassadin jumps onto the Zac and is focusing them instead of the 5 items scooped, there's a problem afoot. And for CB, don't get me wrong, there is a massive problem.
Massive is a bit of an understatement. Now, with the waves getting pushed in, we have to take a look at NAM9's XP bar, because as we were mentioning, this level 16 Kassadin is probably their lone win condition. I don't really think it's super likely. We saw him get basically one shot in that last fight, as you were alluding to earlier. But always maybe a potential opportunity. But Native is trapping CB in their own base. They are placing up the Sun Disc and looking to maybe close this game out.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of how far ahead they are is that they don't need to play clean macro 101. They can kind of just do what they want and win because of how far ahead they are.
Right.
So with the Zac to be a tank, Cassante as well, they should be good to just kind of force this and see what happens. It looks like that's the plan.
Yep, already Phenom X getting bursted down. NAM9 up into the backside, gets hit by the all-out. Rhino actually taking a decent amount of damage. NAM9 up in front, but it is a 1-for-1 so far. Fnatic will take down Phenom X. NAM9 does hit 16, so that could be the possible angle here, but it is still a 3v4 in favor of Native. The Nexus towers are still chunking down. Scoop is there, and Messeriz says, hey baby, why don't you come on over here, Last Dance. The Nexus is exposed, the TPs are coming in. A double kill for Scoop will finish the job for Native as they go 2-1 over CB Gaming.
Oh, it wasn't easy, Grapes, but boy, did they deserve it. Native secure themselves a 2-1 victory and passage into the upper bracket. This group stage, a very dominant performance in game number 3, but one that was not tarnished by a very seriously competitive series throughout.
Yeah, and CB Made him work for it. Sorry, Graves, I didn't mean to cut you off. CB made him work for it. But Native, they do get it in the end. It was a couple of close games and then a pretty dominant one in the end. And fellas, Graves, I don't know if this is what you're gonna start talking about, but CB got scooped.
They got scooped. Yeah, they also got Varist.
They
Which
did
is
get
just kind of
Varist.
a theme that we kind of saw throughout the series. Scoop proving why he's probably the best AD carry in this tournament, especially with Aaron getting promoted up to NACL. Congratulations. But I think that overall a pretty decent showing out of CB Gaming. And you know, we were talking about this matchup probably being a bit one-sided, but now actually when I take a look at the rest of the group, Ambition without their without their, you know, originally intended AD carry, and Winthrop also without their originally intended AD carry, this could actually be a really interesting sort of series of events to see who else gets out of this group if, you know, the rest of the cards fall the right way.
Grapes, I do believe on our last episode, you predicted this group to be the group of death, if I'm not mistaken. And it is looking like it, because if I'm one of the teams that we're going to see next, Team Ambition or Winthrop,
Who is your
I
comparison of?
do
Alright,
not
Graves, this one's
want
gonna
to
get
play
clipped on Twitter.
CB
Y'all better
Gaming
get your
after what I
clip tool
just
ready.
saw, because clearly
I
this
have
team is doing some
wildcard
things right. They've
gaming
also
because
got the
they
crazy
started
draft
off
that you gotta
hot,
worry
but
about.
they're
You can see
not
the
going to
results
be able to keep
from
it
the
up.
first round of games on your screen right now. Native Gaming on this stream,
That's,
of course,
who
did
is your
take the
comparison of?
2-1
Graves,
win.
this one's gonna
Meanwhile,
get clipped
over
on Twitter. Y'all better get your
twitch.tv
clip tool ready.
/MaxHide, check out Summer stream.
I
check out
have
Summer.
wildcard gaming
Horizon
because
took
they
down
started off hot, but they're not
ISU
going to be able to keep
2-0.
it
I
up.
believe
Woo!
Supernova and Lit are
That's
already underway over there if y'all want to jump over. But I mean, what a series it was. We maybe were expecting some 2-1s to come through. We saw one yesterday with UST up against Godel, but I don't think this was the series we expected to see it in.
No, you're right. Unequivocally, that is that is absolutely correct. I think that with Native coming in as such heavy favourites to not just you know, this matchup, but this group as well, the 2-0 1 seed versus 4 seed was sort of anticipated, but I think that the fact that CB are in at 4 seed potentially could be a bit of a crime, and I'm more than happy to assess that TA and Winthrop are both going to have to struggle to get out of this group if CB are allowed to continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah, totally fair. I mean, it will be a struggle. That just makes me even more excited to watch the games for next week, too. But we got a great match coming up. It is going to be Team Ambition up against Winthrop. Grapes, I'm just going to go to you first. Any final closing thoughts from the series before I send us out?
Watch out for this CB Gaming team, specifically the bot lane. I think Sandwich and Last Dance, they're able to whip out some really unique things. When they went standard, that was when they got the most destroyed. So I think that we could really see some good stuff out of them as we get all along the rest of the weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. Rude, anything else?
Nah, I got nothing. Grapes hit it on the head. I'm good.
Yeah, watch out for CB then. Seems to be the consensus. Well, that's going to be it for the first series of the day. But again, there's going to be another one coming up. Grapes and Rude are unfortunately going to be leaving me. I'll be sticking around on the desk. Follow them on Twitter. They are doing this for free. I mean, Grapes owns the channel with me. But Rude, follow Rude on Twitter. At RudeDude1.
Don't follow Grapes. It's really important.
Also
I'm
follow
too much
Grapes
money
at
from all
Speedy
the subs
Grapes
that you guys are giving us. So.
Also follow Grapes at Speedy Grapes as well. Give them some love. They are, again, being here as volunteers. Thank you all so much for watching the first series. We'll be back in just a little bit for Team Ambition up against Winthrop University. Don't go anywhere.